Well, last night's select board sounded like better news on COVID than some weeks. I hope that turns out to be true. I know everybody's wondering about spring vacations and traveling, and those of us who are older are wondering when we have to turn 75. But okay, still don't see Fritz. Megan, you can see, or Catherine, you can see, I see a list of, it says 24 participants. So we may have people in the audience out there who, we've got 12 listed panelists, and then we've got a number of others listed as attendees. So maybe I'll start. I would just say as a beginning matter, this is a different kind of meeting because we have a lot of warrant articles to go through. Some of them are ours, some of them are citizens. In each case, many of those carried over from the prior year, but there's also some new ones. So we'll see how far we get tonight. I'm hoping we could get fairly far along by 8 o'clock. I don't know if we will need to go later than that, but we'll try to take a break around 6. So I'm Judith Wegner, I'm chair of the planning board, and this is a meeting we're holding to conduct review of warrant articles for the 2021 annual town meeting. Let me take attendance among the board members and staff, and then just confirm who is also attending. So board members,
Nat,
Dave Iverson, he said aye. I think I heard that. John Trudell.
Aye.
Judith Wagner is here. Our trustee alternates, David Callahan is here. Campbell Sutton is here. Stephen Welch is here. And then our full group of excellent devoted staff, Andrew Fort,
Here.
Leslie Snell,
Here.
Megan Trudell,
Here.
Catherine Ansero. We also have the following. This is what I'm just reading what is showing up on the console at this point, so folks know who's here. Megan will be explaining how the public hearing aspect works and how you'll need to raise your hand, but the following people are listed as having logged in: Chris Brewster, Clement Durkis, Dave Schultz, Emily Molden, Jennifer Sleeper, Jonathan Jacoby, Kristen Healy, Linda Williams, Richard McCready, Robert Williams, Steve Cohen, Tom Hanlon, and we may have, and Tom Sleeper and Ty Costa. So there may be others yet to come, but that's what it appears to be at the moment. So as I think everybody knows, we're operating under the governor's executive order having to do with operating our meetings in a way different from the literal text of the open meetings law by using this electronic platform. The hearing opportunities will be managed through the system that Megan Trudell will explain in a minute. Our agenda, which I'm going to ask for approval in a minute, will begin with planning board articles, then move to citizen articles. For those who've presented in the past, I think you should know that the board always takes very seriously its preparation and devoted a lot of time to reviewing things that came up last year. So don't feel like you have to like start from zero if you were with us and presented last year, because we are definitely attuned to that. You're entitled, and we invite your comments, of course, on any of these matters that are coming up. But just so you know that we do try to prepare carefully in that regard. Campbell, you have your hand up. I think I can't hear you. I'm sorry. You're not showing it's muted, but I still can't hear you.
Campbell, no, you're not muted.
Uh,
Oh, well, I don't know. Happens to Arthur Reed too.
I would just ask Megan or the NCTV if there's anything you can observe about any blockage to Campbell's feed to us. Campbell, sometimes I would try going to my bottom edge of the computer and checking the volume in case I had turned the volume down in error, and just kind of push the volume marker up to see if that might be saying. Still can't hear you, but I'm glad that it's a thumbs up. Ah, is that you ready to talk? Well, let us begin. Maybe we can get you in some other way that Megan or Catherine or the TV folk can help with. But is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
John moved, Nat seconded, roll call. John,
Aye.
Nat,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Judith, I still don't have Fritz here at this point.
Fritz emailed me. He's having some technical difficulties as well. So I've sent him another link to try and
Okay.
sign on. So
Oh, here he is. I saw. There's Fritz. Welcome, Fritz. So we've just approved the agenda, Fritz. All right. So Megan, would you tell the members of the public here how the public hearing process works technically, please?
sure. So many of you, it looks like, are already signed on and registered as attendees. But if you're watching from home and wish to participate, go ahead and click the link that is posted below the YouTube video. You can also find the link posted on the meeting agenda on the town's website. You can register and then you'll get the Zoom instructions to log in. Once you are logged in, when the chair opens for public comment, use the raise your hand feature and I will recognize you in the order in which you've raised your hand. If you are here as an attendee because you've submitted a citizen warrant article, when it's your turn and that article comes up for discussion, I'll promote you to the panelists so your face can be on the screen with the rest of the board members should there be any questions.
Okay.
If anyone has technical difficulties, I tend to monitor my email too as best I can. So.
Okay. I think we're ready to go then. We're starting with the planning board articles. I just want to report to the board that Andrew did a brief summary for the select board last night and did a good job providing them with an overview. They have to approve the warrant article, so they were working their way through a whole number of these, but he was effective and concise, and I spoke very briefly about the pool art as well. So our first item is zoning map amendment to place properties off of Gray Lady Lane and Bartlett Road, currently located in C-Tech district in the residential 5 district.
So Megan, do we have a map that you can put up for this? That would be helpful. Great, thank you. So this article, the intent here is to really change out the existing commercial tech zoning and to place this area into the R5 zoning district. So from the map, you can see clearly that R5 is the majority district surrounding this area. R5 is a residential district, C-Tech a commercial district. The C-Tech designation followed an earlier subdivision that has since been abandoned in favor of a residential development, which is underway for this property. So basically the C-Tech removal brings the underlying residential development into overall conformance with R5 zoning. So we would ask that the board support this rezoning.
So does the board have questions before I open the hearing? Then let me open the hearing. Is there anybody in the public who'd like to speak to this matter? So please use the hand feature so Megan can call on you. Nobody, Megan?
No, I'm not seeing anyone.
Okay, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll move to close the public hearing.
Dave,
Second.
who is first?
On
John,
first, Dave second.
John, and Dave.
Yeah.
Roll call, John,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Nat,
Aye.
Fritz,
Aye. Aye.
Judith, aye. Okay, board members, what's your pleasure? Would you like to discuss it further, or if not, is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to give this a positive recommendation.
Thank you, John. Second from Dave, I think. Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, John,
Aye.
Nat,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Fritz,
Aye.
Judith, aye. Thank you. Next item, zoning map amendment to this property at 8 and 10 Appleton Road, currently in the residential commercial RC2 district, in the residential 5 R5 district. Andrew.
Leslie, are you, I think Leslie
Campbell.
is.
Madam
You
Chair.
wanted Leslie to speak? Okay.
Okay, so the two properties, oh, well, hold on. Okay, the two properties that are shown in red at 8 and 10 Appleton were included in an article last year at town meeting to go to C-Tech. The article was called, it was carried forward to this year. We've now separated those into two articles because the property owners at 8 and 10 had reached out to me and they now want to be in the R5 district, which is more consistent with the remaining properties on Appleton. So we recommend that you support this article.
Thank you. Campbell, I think I saw your hand. I'm seeing the screen display, so sorry if it takes me a minute to see whose hand's up. I see you're smiling, Campbell. Make a noise and see if that works. You know what? I wonder if Megan, you could send her another link, and Campbell, you might even want to dial in rather than try to be with the photo stuff here. If you're having a problem, maybe down kind of reducing the demand down a bit on your system would help. Right now you're frozen, so. I know you also live on Appleton, so you may be wanting to say you're not going to participate. I'm not sure, but in the meantime, let's open the hearing for anybody in the public who'd like to this matter. See anybody?
Yep, David Spurgle. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your last name. Go ahead, David.
Mr. Spurgle, welcome.
You have to unmute.
I see you as mute. Now I see the mute is off. Can you hear us okay? It's going to be a long night, folks.
Oh, God.
I wonder if there's some sort of internet outage in the Appleton area.
Well, I also noticed that the FinCom is having a Zoom hearing at the same time we are, so I also don't know if it's overwhelming demand on the town system or something like that. If you've got any way to email to the NCTV folks, Megan, maybe they can. I think what I'm going to do is suggest that we just hold this matter over, go on to another couple of hello, Mr. Spurgle?
Well,
Are you there? Mr. Spurgle? What I'm going to do is, Mr. Spurgle, are you there? I'm going to just say, let's hold this item in abeyance until we can confirm that he's connected and that we get Campbell back. Can you at all tell whether he's not muted? Can you I see his hand is up. I see his mic sign show. So now he's muted. Maybe try to unmute again, Mr. Spurgle, and see if that works. Okay, Campbell's connecting now. Mr. Spurgle still is showing mute. Sorry, folks. I don't know what else to do here. I think until we confirm that they're connected, let's just pass on to one more time, and then I'm going to move on to the next and come back. Mr. Spurgle, are you there? Okay, I'm going to hold this matter and go on to the next one and come back to this once we get some indication that we can hear you out. Otherwise, I feel like we need to probably hold it over to a subsequent meeting. If the people who are here to speak can't connect, then
this is NCTV jumping in. Regarding the connection issue, I have a very good connection here monitoring this meeting, so I would recommend if you're having a connection problem, just rebooting and trying to reconnect into the meeting.
Campbell?
Oh, you could hear me?
Hey! Oh, magic. All right.
Excellent.
Well, I had to get a different iPad, and then I had to go through my Zoom app that I have on the iPad, because trying to go through the email link through the town's email just totally would not function. So thank you, but I do have a quick question because I wasn't here to say that I was here, though I was here silently.
No,
Am
I
I-
think we registered you as here. I was reading, so you're here now in person and in voice and in spirit and,
Yes, thank you.
all right.
Thank
Did
you.
you have anything you wanted to say about this?
I don't even know where we are. Which one are we
Well,
on?
we have been trying to get to 8 and 10 Appleton Road, but we knew you weren't here, so we have someone named Mr. David Spergel, I believe, who was trying to speak as a part of the hearing, and we couldn't hear him, so now he may be rebooting in accordance with the advice from NCTV.
Okay, well, I would just have a quick question on it in whether it's possible to do an R5 limited instead of just a straight R5. And what the implications would be, Andrew, through you, Judith.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
staff would not recommend that. That would constitute a spot zone or a reverse spot zone in the middle of what's already R5. So there's R5 basically on two sides, and that would be it would need to be in a broader R5 limited zone, but you cannot really pick two properties out like that.
Okay, great. Thank you, Andrew. Just wondering.
You're welcome.
okay, folks, I'm going to say that we're continuing that matter. We're not closing the hearing in hopes that Mr. Spergel will be able to reconnect at some point here. But let us pass on to the next item, zoning map amendment to place properties at 18 and 18R Bartlett Road and One Youngs Way, currently located in the R5 district, the CN district.
Okay, so Madam Chair, these properties were previously located in the RC2 zoning district. And we worked with the property owners on a rezoning, and at the time, we suggested R5 and they agreed to it. They now would like to change to commercial neighborhood for one of the properties. On Bartlett, it does not change anything that they could do with their property. They have a special permit issued from the Zoning Board of Appeals, and they have, maxed out what they can do there. For the other property owner, it would allow some additional commercial activity, and we support this rezoning. It's consistent with what's going on to the east over closer to 30 Acres Lane. For the other property at One Youngs, that's another situation where the owners worked with us on the RC2 phase out. At the time, they thought they wanted to go to R5. They have now changed their mind and they would like to go to the CN. It's again consistent with the surrounding area, and we support that and would recommend a positive motion.
Thank you. Are there questions or comments from the board? I think I see one hand up, Megan. Sophia Lee. We have you showing as mute, so you may want to unmute yourself.
I found the love of me, in the star.
I'm sorry,
Follow my lead. Please bring.
are you trying to participate in a public hearing here? I think you're gone now.
Oh,
Oh, that might have been an American Idol audition.
All right.
that's perfect.
Anybody else who would
Judith,
like?
yeah, Judith, I just have a question for Leslie. Are we,
Yep.
the Young's Way one is still really Article 43, right? Even though it's sort of broken away, but I see that it has to be, right? Because of there's no number, but then the next number is 44, so that would be it, right?
The article numbers are going to change, so.
Oh, okay.
But those, I
Okay,
did
sorry.
include those in the same article because I saw that as sort of a cleanup. So
Yeah,
the 18
no,
and
it's
18
perfect.
are in the one Youngs.
Okay, just checking just so I can tell. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay, I see Campbell's hand, then I see a hand from the public, Dahlia Rodriguez. Campbell?
I just had, I think this, and I could be completely wrong, but I feel like this One Young's Way, 33 Old South, 24 Tacoma, and there's another situation in there, Tom, we're making a bunch of changes, and I got pretty confused on where One Young's Way was and how it wasn't included in what we were doing in other parts, or whether the end result is sort of a commercial neighborhood up by Old South Road with an R5 down more towards Tacoma Way.
Leslie, you're nodding.
So the end result will be commercial neighborhood up closer to Old South with residential in the back.
Okay, great. I was just so confused with all the different maps.
Great, thank you. Board members, anybody else have a question or comment? Otherwise, I'm going to go back to the public. Dahlia Rodriguez, are you there, please? Hello, welcome. She's gone. I hope we're not going to get into one of these Zoom bomb scenarios here. Angel Smith.
Told you I'm hacker and I love Leslie's.
Okay, members of the public, I have to say, we appreciate your sense of humor or irony or whatever may be going on here, but this is a public meeting and we're trying to do the public's business, and we'd appreciate it if you take your commentary unrelated to another forum, please. Are we ready to close the public hearing on this matter?
So moved.
Thank you, Nat. Second?
And-
Somebody? John?
Mhm.
Roll call, Nat,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Dave, Fritz,
Aye.
Judith, aye. Okay, what's your pleasure, members of the board?
Make a motion for positive recommendation for Article 43, including the Young's Way piece.
Thank you, Nat. Is there a second?
Second.
John seconds. Roll call, Nat,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Fritz,
Aye.
Judith, aye. Okay, next one, zoning map amendment to place properties on Bartlett Road and Perry Lane, currently located in the residential commercial 2 RC2 district in the commercial trade entrepreneurship and craft CTEC district. Leslie or Andrew?
So Madam Chair and Board, this article was before the town meeting before. It was carried over. It's part of essentially the RC2 phase out. It's one of the last areas of RC2 in this, basically the Bartlett Road corridor. We got to go back a map, Megan. I think it's on an earlier one. A little bit more, another one. Yep, here it is here. So it's the area outlined in green. This is a mixed use area. It's an area that has warehouses and some types of commercial uses and interspersed with residences. The CN zoning district, which is the same designation as the turquoise area, is the most consistent designation for this. And we would ask the board to move forward. I believe, Leslie, you could update us, but I think any of the neighborhood, or I think there was at least one neighbor that had an issue, and I think that's maybe been cured.
Andrew, could you clarify what I'm reading on the summary says to turn it into C-Tech rather than CN?
Oh,
Is
oh,
that
I'm
an
sorry.
error?
I'm sorry. I misspoke.
Okay. So C-Tech, the substance of your comments are no different. It's just you misspoke what the
Yeah,
district was.
C-Tech is a commercial district that allows this type of use. It allows residences on the same lot as the businesses. It does require a bigger lot size than the current RC2, which is only 5,000 and inadequate for most commercial uses. So again, I think it's consistent with the development pattern that exists here in this neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. Leslie, did you want to add anything?
To my knowledge, the people that had permitting issues that delayed this article last year have resolved those. I've reached out to a couple of people and didn't hear anything back, so I'll take that as a good sign.
Okay, thank you. Board members, are there questions you'd like to ask before we go to the public? Okay, members of the public who are here for the hearing and are prepared to be serious and join us for this discussion, please raise your hand if you'd like to be recognized on this matter. I don't see any. Is there a motion to close?
So moved.
Motion to close.
Okay, Nat moves, John seconds, roll call, Nat,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Fritz,
Aye.
Fritz,
Aye.
Judith, aye. Thank you. Fritz and Judith says aye. So hearing is closed. Is there a motion?
Motion to make a positive recommendation.
Second.
Thank you, John. Moved, Nat seconded, roll call, John,
Aye.
Nat,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Fritz,
Aye.
Judith, aye. Thank you. Next one is zoning map amendment to place properties at 33 Old South Road and 24 Tacoma Way, currently located in the residential commercial 2 RC2 district, in the residential 5 R5 and or commercial neighborhood CN districts. So this is one, Fritz had a helpful comment prior to the meeting about what do we do if there are more than one possible districts to which we might be changing things. And I think that means we want to discuss both the potential of R5 and also of CN. So Leslie or Andrew, whoever's going to go first.
Can we pull that map up? So again, the board discussed this at, this article was before the last town meeting and it was held over. This is essentially, there are two pieces of property here. There is a long skinny property that runs all the way from Old South Road to Tacoma Way. It was the site of a fire. So the building in the front is the burned out building. And also it does include a lot at the corner of Tom's Way and Tacoma. So we had a little bit of a discussion already that the intent here is to divide this property so that the commercial activity is towards the front or towards Old South Road, so towards the northern part of the property. And the residential is part of the southern part, which is consistent with the residential use of Tom's Way and the existing R5 district that we've already put in place, which is a yellow. So this property, as you know, was before you with a preliminary plan. There is going to be some level of development on this property. We hope it conforms to our bylaw. And it's certainly, it's the last, I think this is the last of this particular block that remains in RC2. And RC2 is part of our long-term effort to update and phase that district out. So we think our proposal reflects proper planning and how that neighborhood should develop moving forward, and we ask the board to support it.
So the fact that it references R5 and or commercial, that is the point you were making about what's closest to Old South is the CN portion and the balance is R5. So it's not a choice as to any given parcel. It's just that the overall area is being divided into two different districts. Is that right? Leslie's nodding.
Yes, and this is a single piece of property going into two separate zoning districts. So it's not uncommon for us to, again, as part of our outreach, there's an extensive outreach that was completed to all of these maps that of the articles that the planning board supported have been mailed out. Leslie has fielded a number of calls. And as you remember, last year we had an extensive discussion of where this line was to be drawn. So, so again, it's not uncommon, and it basically, what matters is what the planning board reports out. That's what's voted at town meeting.
Okay, thank you. Board members, comments, questions before we go to the public. Fritz.
Yes, I just want to make sure whatever's getting printed and asking to be approved, that the or should be eliminated then. It should be into into residential 5 and CN, right? Can't be or.
Or some reference to portions or something.
Well, that's correct, but that will be in the planning board motion. It's not, we're not at that stage yet.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we're.
Thank you. All of us need to fly spec this stuff to be sure. It's easy to blink and have a miscue. So Campbell.
I just had a quick question. I believe this property is up for sale, right? So is it going to be two separate areas, or is it going to continue to be for sale as one large area? And then, like Fritz said, one end would be more expected to be more commercial neighborhood and the other end to be more residential? Because I think we talked something about a road when they came in for approval.
Right. I'm aware that the property has been sold, so it's no longer for sale. There's, like I said, there were two separate properties. So the property at the corner of Tacoma and Tom's Way is not part of the pre-plan or not part of anything that the board has looked at yet. So I don't know what that particular owner, will do or not do, but they asked for their property to be included in the residential zone. So that will take that out of commercial. The one thing that I think you all know by now is that when pre-plans are filed prior to town meeting, the property is subject to a zoning freeze. So even though our zoning is going to designate these new lines, the entire property is subject to a zoning freeze if they follow up with a definitive plan, within I guess or did they already do that? Did they follow up with a definitive plan yet?
I don't believe they did. No.
Right, so they have a certain amount of time to follow up with a definitive plan, which would lock RC2 in place, which means we wouldn't necessarily get, I guess, the planning goal of having commercial up front and residential in the back. But I think at least by putting it in the proper zoning, that sort of signals what we're looking for. So again,
Great.
we won't know until they bring a definitive plan back or not. But at least, again, I think the proper thing for us to do is move forward with zoning that reflects the master plan and our goals for the neighborhood.
Great,
you.
thank
Other questions? Members of the public, this is your opportunity to comment. I don't see any hands raised. Megan, do you? Okay, is there a motion to close?
Motion to close the public hearing or public.
Thanks,
Second.
John. Nat seconds, roll call, John,
Aye.
Nat,
Aye.
Fritz,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Judith. Okay, a motion on the merits.
Make a motion for a positive recommendation.
Second.
John moved, Dave seconded, roll call, John,
Aye.
Nat,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Fritz,
Aye.
Judith, aye, thank you. Next one is zoning map amendment to place properties located off of Tom's Way, currently located in the residential commercial 2 RC2 district into the residential 5 R5 district.
Madam Chair, I think, this reflects, again, the discussion we had. This takes this commercially zoned area, which is almost exclusively residential uses, or there may be some accessory type commercial use in here, and brings it into conformance with R5, which will be located across the street. I know Leslie had extensive conversations as part of her outreach to the neighbors. Leslie, did you have anything you wanted to add to this?
I don't. I put together an analysis lot by lot that was shared with the neighbors. Some of them initially had some concerns, and I answered their questions, and they have expressed support.
This is big.
Thank you.
This is exciting. This has been going on for a long time, this spot, trying to fix it. Andrew probably had a couple of martinis or something after this was agreed on.
I thought you were
This
going to
is-
say before Andrew even arrived, so.
This is like Bartlett Road in a sense of how long he's been trying to fix this. So.
I don't drink alcohol. I don't know what you're talking about.
Anybody with a question or other comment? Otherwise, members of the public, this is your opportunity to speak at the hearing on this matter. I'm not seeing anybody. Megan, how about you? Okay, motion to close the hearing. Anybody?
Move to close to the public.
Thank you.
Second.
John moves, Nat seconds to close the hearing. John,
Aye.
Nat,
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Fritz,
Aye.
Judith, aye. Then on the merits,
Motion for a positive recommendation.
thanks, John. Second, any?
Second.
Nat seconds, roll call, John,
Aye.
Nat,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Fritz,
Aye.
Judith, aye. Thank you very much. Next one, another one that has been perking for a while, zoning map amendment to place properties on Union Street, Francis Street, Washington Street, and Salt Marsh Way, currently located in the residential commercial RC district in the commercial neighborhood CN district.
So thank you, Madam Chair, board members. So this property came up for discussion. This was continued. Property owner at the corner of Francis and Washington Street had some concerns about the article. There are two properties that we have taken out. There's still some remaining RC to deal with at some point in the future. But this key core area belongs, in our opinion, in the commercial neighborhood district. You can see that it's surrounded by the ROH district, which is the green area. Clearly, a commercial area distinct and different from the downtown, and a mix of existing commercial and residential uses. So again, there's two properties that were removed, the property at the corner of Francis and Washington. For future discussion, you can see there's two individual properties further up on Washington across from Meter. So we'll deal with those final designations later. And then the property at the end, which they have some permitting and other issues that needed to be worked out. So we took them out for now, but we recommend that you move forward with the balance of this area. And I don't think we've had any other particular concerns. Is that right, Leslie?
That's correct. I mean, we did a mailing this year, the same mailing that we did last year. I spent a lot of time talking to these property owners before the town meeting in 2020. And it was unfortunate that this article didn't move forward then, but none of them have reached out to me. So I think we should, support this article and move it along while the property owners are in agreement.
I agree. And Madam Chair, I think looking at it, there aren't any interior lots that we have to deal with. The only ones that are potentially going to be added to the district later would be on the outskirts. So I think it's good.
Other comments or questions? Dave?
We did have those.
Iverson?
Didn't those people put in a freeze plan on that one lot, kind of just up from the Washington Street extension?
Yes.
Yes, 2 Francis Street, this one right
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. Okay. Good. No, I'm good with it.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is the public hearing. If anybody would like to speak on this matter, please indicate by raising your hand logo and we'll call on you. Seeing none, is there a motion to close?
Motion to close.
Second.
John moves, Fritz seconds to close the public hearing. John? Roll
Aye.
call.
Aye.
Nat?
Aye.
Fritz?
Aye.
Dave Iverson?
Aye.
Judith, aye. On the merits?
Motion for a positive recommendation.
Second.
John moved, Dave seconded, roll call, John,
Aye.
Nat,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Fritz,
Aye.
Judith, aye. Thank you. Next one is this the one that got pulled off the Sconset? Yes. So I've had so many versions of this agenda. We had zoning map amendment to place remaining properties in Sconset Residential 1 district in the Sconset Old Historic and or Residential 5 Limited District. But Andrew explained that in talking with the folks working on the Sconset area plan, it seemed better to treat it in that context than trying to deal with it independently. Do you want to say anything further on that, Andrew?
No, Madam Chair, that actually covers it. I do think, their group is meeting right now. So timing wise, I think it was better to defer action on this until we had really more time to sit at the table and, work out an actual proposal. So.
Okay, so we're withdrawing that. So I don't think we need to open a public hearing on that.
Right.
So we'll just pass on to the next item, which is zoning map amendment to place properties off of Tautamo and Osprey Ways and Hummock Pond Road, currently located in the residential 20 R20 district and limited use general 2 LUG 2 district in the village residential district and or limited use general 1 lug district.
So, Madam Chair, I can tell you that this particular article has generated some opposition and controversy. Just to go back and update the board on where this came from. Again, this was a clear element of the master plan where what are basically considered town districts. So the town districts are the R1, R5, R10, R20, and R40 that are located in the country overlay district. Just to refresh your memory, the country overlay district is an area that we are to reduce overall density, not encourage it. You can see that this, these R20, which are basically R20 is a 20,000 square foot lot area. And it is maybe more typical in areas like Friendship Lane and others that have water and sewer. But there were 2 areas created in the early days of the zoning district, really islands of this R20.
Yeah.
And we did some work, if you remember, and actually it was probably well timed, down at the end of Mothball Way. R20 originally extended down in that particular area, and we removed that. As you know, that area is subject to been subject to erosion. This is an environmentally sensitive area next to the pond. So the proposal we were looking at was to move it from R20 to the village residential area. That is the same basic lot size, but it does reduce ground cover. And it does, among other things, require a special permit for a pool. Those are the 2 biggest complaints so far that I think we've heard. I think if you look at the zoning around there, Lug 2, that's our 2 acre, 80,000 types, 80,000 square foot minimum lot zoning. The brownish areas are LUG 3, which is 120,000 square foot zoning. The area of Austin Lock Way, Davis Lane, Westerwick, all of that is pre-existing. So that is in the Lug 2 district. And those lots are very restricted because they're pre-existing non-conforming. The Moby Ahab Way, that's a cluster. So basically all of that open space around there is why those particular lots are smaller. And I guess, you know, there is something to be said about the fact that, you know, ground cover reductions are part of what the planning board has been looking for as directed by the master plan. We've had many articles where people have, for the good of the island and concern for their neighborhood, reduced their ground cover as part of the rezonings. Just last year, or the year before maybe, the old historic district reduced ground cover by 20%, going from 50 to 40. Earlier in the process, areas like 3M and Mizzenmast or Pine Valley reduced their ground cover from 50 to 25%. So again, I know there's complaints about that, and I know Leslie has done some analysis in that particular area. There may be, you know, some, I guess, wisdom in continuing this for further discussions. But I do think that if you look at the master plan from 2009, which was unanimously approved, it was very clearly stated that anomalies, these higher density areas in the country district would be something that the planning board would look at and would bring articles to town meeting, which is 100% within their jurisdiction legally and otherwise to do. We've done that in areas across the island, as you know. So I will ask Leslie maybe to summarize her chart, but that's the background of why we brought this article forward. It takes time to implement these articles, and basically, we've been chipping away at this in different areas, and now we've arrived here. So that gives you an idea of where we've been.
Leslie?
So there are 47 properties included in this. We only have parcel data at the building department and through the assessor on 45 of those. So out of the 45, if the zone were to change from R20 to VR, which as Andrew said, is a ground cover reduction from 12.5% to 10%, there are 2 lots that are currently non-conforming, so they would stay non-conforming. 6 new nonconformities would be created, and those are fairly minor, but still nonconformities. 7 properties would have less than 500 square feet of ground cover available. 9 properties would have between 500 and 999 square feet available. 5 would have between 1,000 and 1,999 square feet. And 16 would have 2,000 square feet plus. So, there's a lot of ground cover here available to reduce and for people to still have some left. And in some cases, a lot left.
And Leslie, I'm reading this, but I can't go back to the map now. That what you described covers both of the 2 large blocks, the upper and the lower one. Is there any pattern as between the 2 that differs at all?
Well, on the northern block or the eastern block, those lots tend to be a little bit larger, and LUG1 is a consideration in the article for those, which I'll get to that in a minute. But most of the properties in this area, or most of the structures, were constructed decades ago. There are very few new structures. So, there's been plenty of time for people to plan and implement plans in the R20 district, not to mention the time between the 2009 master plan and now. So as Andrew said, I don't think this is really springing a new concept onto property owners unless maybe they're new. But for the easternmost group, the larger properties, Megan, can you switch back to the chart on those? So I highlighted those in blue, and I did an R20 to LUG1 analysis over on the right-hand side of the chart. And all of those properties, even if rezoned to LUG1, would still have fairly significant ground cover available. And the ones that I have listed as vacant with question marks, the assessor has them listed as vacant. There's no building file available, but you can clearly see structures on the aerial. So I didn't have time to further research that, but overall you can see there's a lot to work with here.
Thank you. Board members, do you have questions or comments you'd like to raise at this point, Fritz?
Just a question. You said it's controversial. I mean, with respect to tonight's hearing, I think we got one letter, an attorney letter, but are there specific people who have objected? And if so, what is their specific argument as to their property? Or is this just a general statement about less density and or about the coverage and the change of zone generally?
Leslie, I'm sure we'll answer that. I should just note Steve Cohen has his hand up, so he may have something to add on that point too. I'm not sure when we get to public comment. Leslie?
Right. So I know Steve Cohen reached out yesterday and said that he represented a group of clients and he expressed some concerns, so he can tell you about those. I talked to several, maybe 3 or 4 property owners tops that were very unhappy about the change in the by right allowance for pools. They thought a special permit was too much. They weren't happy with the reduction in ground cover. And then I did speak with Bob Williams, who is the president of their association. And he expressed to me that, you know, quite a few owners had been coming to him with questions and concerns. And they all center around the reduction in ground cover and a new requirement for a special permit for a swimming pool.
Thank you, Leslie. Campbell?
Damn it.
Yeah, Campbell?
I really appreciate all the effort that's gone into density reduction with the VR proposal. I'd like to remind everyone that this really is a sensitive area in terms of any of the future flood water maps that we've been looking at, and that the coastal resiliency team has been showing us. And it seems to me that the safer we can be in terms of protecting people's property and not having them overbuild in an area that, you know, potentially, as they say in the future, is going to end up in the ocean, as well as the same thing for the swimming pools. There's a lot of hydrostatic pressure in that area. And so you have, you know, you have to do a lot to keep the pool down. And so I think a special permit isn't too much to ask for people. I think sometimes, you know, we need to recognize the area in which we have our property and, you know, the realities revolving around it. So those were my concerns. I think my only thing was that the LUG2, because it runs so close to the edge of the water there, I think it might be, and I have no idea, I would just throw it out there, I think it might be worth keeping it LUG2. I'm not sure we want to encourage development again along a waterfront that has future potential to not be there anymore. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Other thoughts from board members? Otherwise, I'm going to recognize Steve Cohen. And anybody else in the audience who would like to speak on this matter, please be aware that you just simply have to raise your hand logo there and we will get to you in order. I see Emily Molden coming up next. Steve Cohen, your turn. Thanks for waiting.
Madam Chair, I think Dave Iverson also had his hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see you. Dave, shall I take the public comments or do you want to speak before then?
Whatever you prefer is fine, Judith.
Why don't you speak in case there's something the audience members would like to comment and respond?
I appreciate the concern of the property owners here, but I think that it's important to understand that most likely most of the people on the pond, closest to the pond in the western section of R20 probably aren't going to be able to have pools anyway with proximity of groundwater into the pond. So I think that, you know, and then a special permit's a special permit. We're not saying no. So I think that if people get concerned, of course, and I don't blame them, but I don't see that we're slamming the door shut on anyone here. And that's really all I have to say.
Leslie?
I forgot to mention in the research, I did look to see how many properties have pools, and out of all of them, there's one.
This is the ones that would be affected by this that don't currently have pools?
So out of the 47, there's one property with a pool.
So that means 46 are potentially folks who might say we want a pool in the future if they could get one. Right, okay, thank you. All right, Nat, I want to go.
No, I didn't realize I was muted somehow. I must have did it myself.
Do you
accidentally.
want to speak before I go to the audience?
No, I mean, they can, okay, I didn't want to say anything, but this area, I've been, around a while now. I don't know if that's good or not, but anymore, but this area always sort of jumped out at me, like kind of like some of the weird stuff we've been dealing with recently in the state forest with half-acre zoning, just sort of hanging out. Because staff has been working so hard for the last 15 years to get the real bad stuff fixed, the crazy stuff. And so now we're finding these other areas that sort of were never really, they were mismatched from, like Andrew said, from original zoning almost. And so that's, here we are. It's 2006, 2007, fixing, looking at 3M, looking at Pine Valley, looking at Bartlett, looking at some of that stuff. Well, that's where now we're out here now, just poking and looking at this stuff, and eventually it has to get corrected. So it's a good discussion to have, and the public needs to understand that that's one of our roles. So that's all I
Okay,
have right now.
thank you. Board members, are you content at this point? Can I go to the audience who have their hands up? I've got Steve Cohen, followed by Emily Molden, followed by Jonathan Jacoby. Steve, welcome back.
Thank you, Judith. I think it's been a few months since I've been on one of these meetings. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I was contacted very recently, and by recently I mean yesterday, by a number of homeowners in the area, and still trying to decide how many of them want to come on as clients or not, but definitely several of them. And they had a number of concerns. One was that, they didn't quite understand the shape of what was going on here. And I think there was generally a consensus when I talked to them that regularizing the zoning districts to match the lot lines made a lot of sense. I think that the fact that the lot lines, the R2 finger comes through the back of these lots, puts these lots into a situation where they have mixed zoning, which is somewhat of a nightmare. So there was basically no objection to regularizing the zoning district to match the lot lines. I think the line that right now is probably based on a topographical line, which was a common error at the time that the zoning map was computerized. So that wasn't an issue. But then the concern was that the change to VR zoning, although it's the same size lot, it has a slightly different frontage requirement, which is not a big deal, but it also has that loss of ground cover, and it has the special permit for a pool. Now, although the special permit for a pool is not a no, it certainly makes it much more difficult for at least a marketing and sales point of view. And the other thing about the change in the ground cover is that a 2.5% change doesn't really lower the apparent density. In other words, if you have a 20,000 square foot lot, if you have 2,000 square feet of ground cover or 2,500 square feet of ground cover, it's going to look about the same, but from a value point of view, it really impacts the owner's ability to have what seems to be what people want on their lots these days. And what I mean by that is your ability to have a cottage or a cabana or something like that is essentially eaten up by that 500 square foot difference on a minimally sized lot. And based on the value of these lots these days, that extra ground cover is actually what makes these lots meet the market essentially. I think the homeowners that I talked to were very surprised that this was, from their perspective, coming out of nowhere. And what I explained to them was that, it's not out of nowhere, that this is the process, this is how it works. But there's a little bit of the train pulling out of the station without them too, because none of these people went back and read the 2009 area plan. I've been a real estate lawyer here for 16 years. I've never read the 2009 area plan. I don't know that really constitutes notice of what's going on. And I guess what I'd point out is that plan is 12 years old, and we're just getting around to this now. And so I think, most of the people buying in this area or living in this area for the past 10 or 12 years would feel like this is not necessarily something that they should be concerned about. So I guess I would say that my client's primary concern is that they do not want the zoning changed. And my client's secondary concern is that if it is going to change, that maybe we could talk about what the timing of that change is to give people a chance to make plans if they wanted to. Because as you know, based on how zoning works, once they find out about it, it's a little too late.
Okay, Steve, is that pretty much all you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean,
Okay.
basically, they're pretty strongly against the change in the ground cover. They were highly adverse to the special permit for a pool, and they really feel like this came out of nowhere, and that by the time they learned about it, it was too late to do anything about it. Whereas, you know, if the board feels very, very strongly about doing this, you know, maybe we could talk about what the timing is, and if the board is open to that.
Just so I'm clear on this, isn't this one that was carried over from last year? Is that right? No, this is a new one. Okay, thank you. That helps me understand the context. Okay, Steve, I'm gonna go on to, if you're done, I'm gonna.
Yeah. I for now, I.
Okay, Emily Molden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Emily Molden here for the Nantucket Land Council. I just wanted to take a moment to support the work that Andrew and Leslie have done on this and support the article in general, really for all of the reasons that Andrew laid out. I think that from a zoning perspective and master plan perspective, it just makes good sense and has already been stated. This certainly is an environmentally sensitive area right adjacent to Hummock Pond. I know that a lot of the residents from these neighborhoods have expressed a lot of interest and been involved in the past in efforts for remediation and improvement of the health of the water body. And I think that this zoning change really just goes right in line with that and with the continued improvement of the health of Hummock Pond. So I just wanted to support planning staff on the work that they did on this article. I think that it's a really good proposal and I support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jacoby. You can unmute. I think you'll see how to do that.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you guys for the work that you do. My property is 3 Tatimo Way. I'm one of the residents that is opposed to the change from going from R20 to VR. As Steve said, I think that, you know, I bought my property in 2009. I was not aware of the master plan and how it might apply. And I certainly factored in the potential to use some additional ground cover in my purchase decision. And at the end of the day, it doesn't, to me, constitute a significant change in density, but does have a significant effect on the value that each property owner has here, because 500 square feet, you know, in 2 stories can be 1,000 square feet. And so we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars of value. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being with us. Richard McCready, I'm sorry. Welcome.
Hi, yes, it's Richard McCready. I'm joined here by my wife, Rosemary McCready, as well.
Welcome to her as well.
Thank you. And thank you to everybody for all the thoughtful and important work that you do to protect Nantucket, and to the Land Council as well. We live at 239 Hummock Pond Road. Our property is impacted by this. We love the quality of life in our neighborhood. We love the mix of density that we have now. There are small cottages, there are some larger parcels. It just captures what Nantucket means to us. It's a beautiful community. And while I appreciate the efforts to regularize the zoning, I think our feeling is that this is an overbroad proposal, that the lots that are straddling the two districts could be addressed and regularized. And as to the lots that already exist as R20, they should remain R20. And I do have a question about Nantucket Land Council. I actually went to your website as I was trying to educate myself about this. And
I would just say, I appreciate you want to ask them a question, but you're going to have to ask through me, and I'll have to call on them to respond if you don't, just so you know.
Yes.
It's not kind of back and forth with others in the audience, okay?
Understood.
Okay.
So I guess the one thing I want to mention, and it doesn't even need an answer, is that Nantucket consists of many watersheds. Capum Pond, Washing Pond, Hither Creek, Nantucket Harbor, Hummock Pond, obviously, Long Pond, Maya Comet, the harbor itself, the ocean, Sasasha, Tom Nevers. And I think one of the questions that we had when we received this letter is why is it that Hummock Pond is now, and our neighborhood is now singled out to restrict the construction of pools when pools proliferate all over the island and are in a lot of these other watershed districts. I could be wrong about this. I think there are 18 different zoning districts. You are clearly the experts on that. And to the best of my knowledge, pools are allowed in all of them except maybe Sconset and parts of the historic district. So this puts our neighborhood at a unique disadvantage if this is allowed to advance.
I'm going to let our staff respond to that, but I have to say that's really a question for the planning staff, not for the land council, and that I appreciate that if Emily wants to speak, she can put her hand up again and we'll come back to her. Andrew or Leslie, you want to explain swimming pools?
Well, Madam Chair, I think number one, the VR district, which includes Nantucket, is an area that allows pools by special permit, and pools are allowed in Nantucket. They are in an area that's at least close or similar to this one. There's only two districts that don't allow pools at all, and that's the ROH and the SOH district. So I don't agree that this is, targeting this particular neighborhood. I think I explained why we're here. This is basically the process rolling out over the time. We can't do all zoning districts at one time. All the changes that need to be done, we certainly have experience with that. And there may be a way to talk about, how this could be phased or how we could make other changes. But there is a process. There was a mailing again, and that starts the process that puts people on notice of what we're talking about. So,
Andrew, could you just, to get to her point too, pools are not allowed as of right broadly. Many places there's a special permit requirement, right? Because I think she was arguing that they're targeted because they're subject to special permit requirement, but that's pretty commonly applicable, isn't it?
It applies to any of the VR districts, which again includes areas in Monomoy, and it includes all of the entire neighborhood of Nantucket.
Madam Chair, can I ask Andrew a question?
Sure. Yes.
This lot in particular, but I don't really want to focus on that one. I want to focus on just this. What are the average sizes of these lots, Leslie and Andrew? I know one of you knows. So I mean, is this lot like almost an acre? Like some of them?
So many of the lots are right around a half acre.
Okay,
There are some that are larger. I mean, her particular lot has, I think it's exactly an acre, or right around
Yeah.
there, and it has almost 3,000 square feet of ground cover left, even if it was rezoned to VR, which doesn't really
Right.
fit the swimming pool issue, but, there are some larger lots that are.
yeah. So are they mostly over 20 though, Leslie? I mean, there's a reason I'm asking this question.
I'm looking at the chart, but I don't have it sorted that way, and it's not in a sortable chart, but I would guess 50% are right around 20,000.
Yeah, okay. This is, Andrew just sort of nailed it with all the stuff about Nantucket. This is really like Nantucket in some ways, except it has water. Well, Nantucket has water now too, but you know what I mean? Like this is kind of like that in some ways, but when we go to VR, this is essentially a big lot. It might as well be R40 when it comes to how big it is with the ground cover change. So they're not really losing ground cover. The larger lots are not losing really anything other than the special permit for the pool, but they have plenty of space. And I'm not sure that when you get into these kind of conversations with people that are not from Nantucket, in most cases, it's like a big deal at first until they understand what's happening. So I guess what I'm saying is there isn't a perfect zoning district for every problem. Okay, and you guys have whipped up some pretty good stuff in the last 10 years. And the other question I have, Andrew, over in Ahab, in those little streets over there, is that, I realize that's in Lug 2, but isn't that, don't they have some kind of like Tom Nevis thing where they have a certain amount of ground cover with that zoning? Because those lots are small. So I'm curious about, I thought that was already VR myself personally. I didn't even notice that.
Madam Chair, so
Yes.
those lots were created not as a cluster. So basically all of that brown area around there
Right.
became open space, allowing the smaller lots to be located. So that's a development
Okay.
subject to a special permit. It was one of the first clusters adopted.
I was just going to say, that's before we called it what we call it now. Okay, I didn't realize that. All right, cool.
Madam Chair, could I just make one other point is that, the board acted favorably either last year or 2 years, I can't remember at this point, but implementing the VR district basically directly west of this neighborhood. So all of the Mothball Way and that particular area, we implemented VR districts then. And we also, on the eastern side, implemented VR around VRVN and VTech on Hummock Road to the right. So you can see those pale green areas.
I wondered, Andrew, you may have more to say on that, but also the whole, and Emily, I'm sure might comment on this too, but there's been real concerns about Hummock Pond, right? About the water quality, about breaches, things of that sort. So for folks who may not have lived here for a very long time, it's important that they be aware that there's ongoing efforts to try to deal with water quality and safety and associated matters. I think Campbell spoke to that, but if anybody else, I see Emily, your hand is up. I see Dave though first. I think you want to speak, Dave?
Just a question through you for either Leslie or Andrew. How many special permits for pools have been denied in the past year?
Question.
You seem to be frozen, maybe?
I just recently did research on this and I don't have it handy, but My research did not include just the past year, but it included the span of time during which, VR has been implemented. And not that many applications have been received and not that many have been denied. So I can get that for you at another meeting.
Yeah. I mean, just wondering, because I don't think that many have been denied. And I mean, like I said before, a lot of these people are going to have Concom issues with pools anyway, and that's a separate deal. But yeah, thank you.
I see Emily, and then I see Jonathan Jacoby again. Emily?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just going to add that I think the McCready's question was well addressed by Andrew as far as why this area is being looked at now. I think it really is more of a zoning consideration, but I would be more than happy to speak with the McCready's offline further about what the watershed issues and potential impacts. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jacoby?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Okay, I was just wanted to say.
Yes, sir.
Yes, so I appreciate the point about that there haven't been that many applications for pools and that they haven't been denied that often. I would reiterate, and someone was just talking about how some people may not have ground cover issues, but as Leslie said, 50% of the properties in this neighborhood are right at 20,000 square feet. And to me, the ground cover issue is more important to me personally than the pool issue. And I think to a number of my neighbors as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McCready or Ms. McCready?
Yeah, hi, this is Rick McCready. So one of my questions is, in looking at the zoning map that was up on the screen, so we're nestled in an area that's largely, it looks like, Lug 2 zoning. And I understand the distinction, but there's a lot of exceptions to the Lug 2 zoning. And it just seems to me that if you're making a zoning change, I don't entirely understand the rationale for not making all of this Lug 2 zoning, but instead, excuse me, but instead going down the path of just restricting this grouping of lots here. And, I hear all the arguments, but I certainly have not been persuaded that the public benefit outweighs the kind of detriment and cost to the property owners here.
Okay,
Madam Chair.
anything else? Yes, Andrew.
Madam Chair, I just would point
I
out that
just wanted to be sure Mr. McCready's done, I believe. Is that so I'm finishing that one now. It's your turn, Andrew.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that, if in fact we were to extend the Lug 2 zoning through the properties, that would turn them basically all non-conforming, and they would all be restricted to 1,500 square feet of ground cover. And it's worth noting that the neighboring properties, Wester Wickway, Davis, Trinity, Austin Lock, those properties are all subject to that type of requirement. So those properties, which tend to be, they're varied lot sizes, but a lot of them are 20 to 30,000 square feet. You would apply the Lug 2 zoning allowance, which is 4%, to a 30 or 40,000 square foot lot, and you don't get to 1,500 square feet. So basically, pre-existing non-conforming uses all get only square feet. So, oops. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so in fact, we picked the VR because we were trying to be sensitive to the area and match the existing conditions to the greatest extent that we could. Lug 2 would actually, if people are concerned about ground cover, Lug 2 would actually reduce it even further.
Thank you. Okay, I think we've heard from anybody in the public who has their hands up. I'm just going to advise the public that the board needs to deliberate on this. It's really not our practice to have a board member says something and then someone in the public comes back and repeats points and so forth and so on. So if anybody is out there who deliberation at this time.
We lost you for a little bit, Judith.
Okay, I'll try that again. My internet is unstable. I guess that's going around. Just to the members of the public, if there's anybody who hasn't yet spoken and wants to speak, we're about to move into more concentrated deliberation by the board. So I'm not suggesting that if you've spoken already, you come back and say the same thing again, because we really are paying attention to what you say. But if there's anybody who has not spoken, this really is the time to indicate you'd like to speak so we can hear you. And board members, I'm going to suggest we not yet decide whether we're closing the hearing until we've had a bit more discussion.
Yep.
Okay, so what do people have to say? Nat, you look like you were starting to say something.
Yeah, I've been saying too much, really. I
Madam
think
Chair.
that we need
Never.
we need to definitely listen to what Andrew's saying in the historic realm of things. This is not, we're not taking, R20 and making it into lug 2. Okay, we're not taking lug 1 and turning it into lug 3 just for fun. Like this is a very complicated little area that is really out of character with what zoning should have been originally. So that's, this is where the rubber meets the road. This is complicated, and some people are going to be upset. People were upset with 3M subdivision too. Remember what was said at town meeting. So now they're all happy. So.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
could I suggest to the board that you may have some additional discussion that you want to have, but I think that it would be worth keeping the meeting open at this time. I'd like to, finalize the research that Leslie did. I can appreciate that, maybe timing wise, we could certainly have a discussion about when, in fact, this could be implemented, or maybe it's implemented in stages in areas that maybe are not as controversial. But I think, without losing the overall intent here, I think that, maybe some additional discussions would be fruitful.
I'm losing you, Andrew. Leslie.
So I found my research on the pools. So since the VR was implemented, 5 special permits have been requested, 4 were granted, and 1 was withdrawn. So.
Thank you. Andrew, what I was thinking was just to get a sense of the board so you knew kind of where the board was now, subject to further refinement. But I think you probably can read that as well as I can, that the way I read it, the board seems to be supportive of the undertaking and believes it's something that has been worked on carefully by you and Leslie, and that if you suggest ways to phase in or refine that, I'm sure the board will be eager to hear your further thinking. But am I reading the board correctly? If I'm way off the beam there, I hope somebody would say so. If
I'm not responding to way off the beam. I'm just responding. So there are 47, I think, properties. So I'll say 47 property owners. I don't know whether that's the case, but 47 properties. We've heard from several. I understand the arguments that they're making. Without the data and actually seeing the specific situations, I'm not sure that I'm convinced that the ground cover is an issue. But I just don't know, because I don't know the particular properties. Leslie's obviously gone through a lot of that. She gave us some data. It clearly probably affects some people, and other people it doesn't affect. But as to the swimming pool issue, I think it's fair in this area to require a special permit. And the reason I say that, I really do think it's fair. This is an area with septic tanks. There have been septic tank issues in this area with 1 or 2 houses I'm aware of. It is a sensitive watershed. It's also an area of huge erosion. And if anybody has looked at the erosion maps or lived here, been here since the 60s, you will know know how much of Hummock Pond Road has been lost, and how much is currently being lost. I mean, even just out at the end, those properties that are now in the VR area, there's a huge amount of erosion. And this is an area that is going to be impacted. So I think it's fair in that if somebody's interested in having a swimming pool in this particular area, that it be subject to a special permit, so that the permitting authority can actually look at which piece of property it is, where it's located in the zone, what the effects might be. It might be entirely different if it's close to the closer to the pond as opposed to farther away from the pond. But I think it's fair that there be at least the restriction that somebody should take a look at it before they give a yes or no as to the swimming pool. And I think 1 or 2 of the people, one person specifically said swimming pool wasn't their issue. But so to the extent that if we're going to continue to look at this anymore, to me, it would only be, from my point of view, it would only be to see whether this ground cover thing really affects a significant enough number of people that we would not go forward with the overall plan.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
Good point.
seeing, or hearing Nat saying yes. I'm seeing John nodding. I see Dave looking at his palm tree.
Judith, if I may comment?
If anybody, I think Andrew's asking us not to go too far along here, so he's got discretion to consider. Megan's about to tell me Linda Williams has her hand up, right?
Yes, as does Stephen Welch. I'm not sure what you can see from your end of things.
Okay, I can't see Stephen.
I don't want to touch anything if something
Okay.
happens.
Let me take Linda, then I'll go back to Stephen.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
This is just a simple question, a procedural question. Who is the permit granting authority for these pools?
ZBA.
VA.
Have any of you been to a ZBA meeting when they're doing a pool? I think Leslie and I have. It is not entertaining, and it is not productive. When this first happened out in Nantucket, they didn't know what to do with it. They didn't really want to do it. They weren't consistent with standards. I had thought all along when this came up, I think I was still on the planning board when this happened in Nantucket, that it shouldn't be the ZBA, it should be the planning board, because you have a wider breadth of knowledge on this. And I still feel the same way. Um, it's a nightmare over there with pools. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. I'm just going to say that we're not here to deliberate the bylaw, however, to take away from the ZBA any authority, but I hear your point. I think I saw who had their hand up that
Stephen?
Stephen Welch.
Stephen, I can't see, I see you're unmuted, but I can't see your hand up. Sorry.
Oh, I took it down. Yeah, I was getting a little tired. Thanks, Madam Chair. No, I just was going to support the comments made by the other members. I think this is an area for some controls. I would defer to staff on how best to deploy those controls and the extent, but I do think that it warrants further consideration. Thank you.
And just from
Okay.
commenting, Judith, if
Yeah,
I may,
John.
I really haven't chimed in on this, but just an observation of the conversations that have taken place. Number one, we're not taking the right of way in its entirety. There's still a process for special permit to get it granted. There has been, I think, between 39 and 47 properties of the entire time there's only one pool there. So the option was always there, and the present owners have not necessarily wanted to put a pool in. So I don't know how many that's going to affect going forward. Also, even if we did, and that's if we did give it a positive recommendation, it still has to go through the annual town meeting to get overwhelming support through the voters. So it's not a slam dunk done deal. We're discussing it, and I agree with Fritz's comment. Really, what it comes down to, the core, I think, is the 500 square feet, how that's going to affect the ground cover and what neighbors it will affect. And that's all I really have to say.
Okay, I think we probably need a motion to, although no, I think Megan, you said that everything's noticed, so things can automatically be continued without a motion to do that if we haven't closed the hearing. Is that correct?
I would still motion to continue it. You have
Okay.
the ability to do it, so it's
All
been
right.
noted that way.
Is there a motion to continue? Dave,
Second.
John seconds. Roll call. Dave.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Nat.
Aye.
Fritz. Judith. Aye. Thank you, and thank you to our staff. That really is extraordinarily good work, and we very much appreciate it. I'd also say thank you to those who attended for your diligence in making your views known, and we appreciate your being here as well. Okay, speaking of swimming pools, guess what? Next item, zoning bylaw amendment to increase the minimum lot size and setback requirement for residential swimming pools in the R1, SR1, R5, and R5L zoning districts. Andrew or Leslie, do you want to refresh us on this? I think we're pretty conversant with it, but for anybody who may want to speak, it may be worth giving a brief summary.
Sure, Madam Chair, I think, again, this was an article that grew out of quite a lot of discussion among the board over the years. This article, I think, as you mentioned, and I think it's a good point, is for the 5,000 square foot zones. So the smaller lot sizes that are located around ROH and SOH. So basically in ROH and SOH, pools are not allowed at all. So you might have a spa type arrangement, but then you move into the next outlying districts. And I think certainly there have been concerns and complaints about pools taking up all the minimum yard space, et cetera, on these smaller lots. So again, it would preclude swimming pools on lots of less than 7,500 square feet, but larger lots in these zones would be allowed to have pools subject to greater setback distances. The board supported this unanimously last year. It was called, I think, by Mr. Cohen, maybe, And so it's, now back before the town meeting as we move forward. So,
Thank you. Board members, do you have questions or comments? Okay, let me see if any of I don't see any of the alternates. Do I? Was that anybody there? I see Linda Williams with your hand up.
I've been opposed to this warrant article ever since it first came up, or the discussion came up. I think it's bad because when you think about where most of these R1s and R5s are, there's a substantial, probably more than year round, there's substantial non-voting taxpayers who pay 70 to 80% of our tax base that have no voice at town meeting. A lot of them don't even know this is happening again. They were against it last year. And we're going after people that have not weighed in. There's been no survey. There wasn't the last time. There wasn't the one before that. No survey to these people like we normally do with these things, to the area residents that are going to be affected. There's been little comment from them because they're just not here and they don't know about it. And they all can't go running around hiring attorneys. I think it's wrong. I think it's wrong to do this to people who don't live here and don't have a say in how to vote at town meeting. And a lot of this is like Brant Point, Lincoln Circle, Cliff Road. And there's no reason why they can't have a pool. I don't think the planning board should be the arbiter of what makes noise and what doesn't, because it's not the pool that makes the noise, it's the people that make the noise. And there are noise ordinance, and I believe Leslie's working on another noise ordinance for this town meeting. So I find this offensive, frankly. And so I'm opposed, and I know my people that I grew up with in these R1, R5 zones are opposed. I haven't run into anybody who's in favor of it because I still have a foot in both camps. My family has a home here in the summer. So I'm opposed. I think it's bad. I think it's ill-timed, and I don't like taxation or bylaws without representation. And most of these people aren't here and they don't know about this happening again. So that's my soapbox for today.
Thank you, Linda. I would just want the board to be aware that I've been to the Civic League Executive Committee meeting multiple times, explained this bylaw, including to people from Brant Point, and I know they're in touch with their residents. So we haven't done a survey, but we're not ignoring those considerations. I appreciate Linda may think that other things should be done, but just for information. Steve Cohen.
Sure. Just for the record, as you know, I'm an attorney, but I'm not representing any client here. Like Linda, I just kind of offended by this warrant article. I don't know why there seems to be a bias against pools, but at the end of the day, if people live on a small lot and that only allows them to have a very small pool, then they should be allowed to have a very small pool, and we shouldn't be picking winners and losers based on that. If someone lives in an area that has small lots, they should expect to have noise that you would have in a codfish park or in town or whatever. And I just don't see the distinction between a pool and a fire pit or a deck that you have a cocktail party on, or a child swing set, or anything else that makes noise. Pools essentially are just, at grade places where people sit. There's nothing about them that needs to be such a that I think needs to be such a focus of the planning board. And if we were going to, in general, have larger setbacks and rules on pools, that might be one thing. But sort of picking and poking at winners and losers in zoning districts, I think, is inappropriate. I understand in the core district for historic reasons why that might make sense, and I understand in MMD and other reasons, where we might have limitations. But just starting to pick it, okay, well, anybody who has a smaller lot, I think is not an appropriate regulation. I do think that this regulation, has come a long way from where it started, and I appreciate the work that's been done for it. But in general, I think it should just die on the table. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else who's in the audience who would like to speak to this matter? Then I'll come back to the board's Campbell. I just want to see if there's anybody else who hasn't spoken. Campbell.
Thank you, Judith. So I would just like to chime in lightly here in that by restricting a pool by definition within these areas, that does not restrict spas, just as in the ROH and the SOH doesn't. So it's not as though you won't be able to put your toe in the water or have some water to sit by or that kind of thing. I think Brant Point is sort of out of the question because just the nature of the area is not conducive to underground pools, and would probably be a Concom issue anyway. So I would just like to say that I think the idea that there's no pool, suddenly people think they're not going to have any water. And I think the ROH and the SOH have shown that you're still able to have a pool-like atmosphere with a spa as defined in the zoning bylaws. So I think that's really what I think people need to consider, the separation of a pool by definition and a spa by definition and where they're allowed. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Members, are you ready to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Fritz moved, Dave seconded. Roll call. Fritz?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Nat?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Judith? Aye. Okay, what's your pleasure?
I would make a motion that we approve with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
Okay, Fritz moved, Dave seconded. Is there further discussion? Roll call vote. Fritz?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Nat?
Aye.
Judith? Aye. Okay, thank you. I would simply note that in our prior discussion, I think we agreed to try to enhance or elaborate a little bit further in our comment to be sure people get the full benefit of our thinking on this. So we can, when we come back to those comments, just be aware that we need to do a little more refinement on that front. So it's 5 minutes till 6. I'm going to take up the last planning board item, and then if it's your pleasure, we'll take a short break. The last planning board item is bylaw and zoning map technical amendments to correct language in sections 33B and 30 to be consistent with the language in Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40A, to correct language in sections 8C and 12G to be consistent with other sections of the zoning bylaw that were recently updated to clarify the requirement within the definition of apartment related to how much of the first floor area of a structure can be dedicated to apartment use, to clarify in the definition of ground cover that the shed exemption applies to a single shed only, and to place properties at the terminus of Red Mill Lane and Old Mill Court entirely in the residential one zoning district. That's quite the mouthful. Leslie or Andrew, is this going to be a choral reading with all of you? Leslie.
Okay, so all of that is super technical. For the definition of apartment, the intent of that was that the restriction about 50% of the first floor area was always supposed to apply to the commercial structure. And that language has been tweaked several times, and somehow that doesn't ever quite make the point that it's supposed to make. So this is another try at that. Qualified family member, we removed the reference to primary and secondary lots throughout the bylaw, and we just call both of them secondary lots. So we're just removing the word primary there. In number 3, a minimum of one of the 2 lots shall be subject to a Nantucket Housing Needs Covenant ownership. That gives people the option to restrict both lots if they want to. For whatever reason, it was worded in a way that implied that couldn't happen before. So we want to encourage any additional affordable units that we can. In number 4, we have removed the language of minor and major site plan review in the site plan review section of the bylaw, but it still remained here in the, I think that's the Mid-Island Planned Overlay District. So we're just striking that language. In 30, we're just making that language consistent with MGL. Same thing with number 6. And number 7 is that technical map change at the end of Red Mill Lane and Old Mill Court, where there used to be a paper road that has been extinguished and is now part of those lots. I will point out that the language about the shed that was in the legal notice is no longer necessary. We realized that there was a printing error in the bylaw that has now been corrected.
Okay. Andrew, anything you want to add to that? If not, board members, any questions you have? Members of the public, this is a public hearing. If you'd like to speak on this topic, you can raise your hand logo. Andrew's here. Did you want to?
No, all set. Thank you.
Megan?
Just Stephen Welsh has his hand raised.
Thank you. Stephen?
Stephen, we can't hear you. Still can't hear you.
I don't know if you're going to have to reboot, Stephen. We'll give it another minute.
I think he left the meeting. Oh, there he is.
Hi, guys.
Hi, welcome back.
Sorry about that. I did the old reload. I was just hoping to get some clarification on the shed, topic of the sheds.
So there's nothing in the article about sheds. There was a typo in the bylaw that we thought needed to be corrected, but as it turns out, general code had just omitted some really important language and they were able to add that back in. So we're not doing anything with sheds.
Okay, so basically the end result of that through you, Madam Chair, will be that it's one shed with the current exclusion being 200 square feet at 16 feet tall.
Yes, because we're not changing anything. But
Okay.
the error in the general code implied that you could have more than one shed that was exempt, which it was not.
Okay, so just on the topic of sheds, I would ask, because I had read the code this evening, I didn't actually see that prior, so apologize for not getting a hold of you earlier, Leslie. But I would ask that we consider using ground coverage and height as the yardstick versus number of sheds, because I think it could accomplish the same goal and add a few benefits. So as an example, if you use ground cover and height as the yardstick, sticking to the same thresholds, you could have two 4x8 sheds, 8 feet tall, that total 64 square feet, versus the use it or lose it exclusion of 200 square feet at 16 feet tall. Those sheds usually come in around 18 by 11. And I know even though we noticed it, so I wanted to bring it up because I think that one of the benefits of that would be that we're not precluding the ability to use 2 small sheds versus 1 larger one, which when you start to build a larger one, you go ahead and use the full exclusion. So just something I wanted to mention for future consideration as the fact that we're not going to be dealing with it at this town meeting.
Okay, but let me just be clear. I think that sounds like a different topic concept than anything we've noticed at this point, and that Leslie can carry that into the next cycle's portfolio, and that seemed to be what you anticipated. Did I understand that right, Stephen, what you were asking?
Yeah, if we were going to restrict it to 1 shed, then the language would be open for changes. But since that's already been addressed, I would just be asking that we look at it in the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I would also say, sounds like General Code owes us a discount, because how many typos, if we're doing their proofreading, that we should get a cut of their whatever their charges are. And if you need us to write a letter saying, please proof your work on our behalf so we don't get sued or have to redo things like this, we'd appreciate it. Okay, I think if there's anybody who wanted to speak here, I don't see who they are, so I think we're ready to close the
Judith?
public hearing. Yes, Campbell?
Excuse me, Judith, I just have a quick question because a few meetings ago, I believe something came up regarding tertiary, and I thought maybe we were going to be looking at just within this same format that Leslie was looking at, trying to make sure that the tertiary was applicable to duplexes, et cetera. I think it came up with the Boys and Girls Club when they were putting forward 1,000 square foot one. And I was just wondering where we were with that language.
Leslie will report on that. That's still pending, still to come as a matter in future.
Regular
There's been a
meeting.
revision. Leslie?
So that application is still pending, but we also discovered there was an error made by General Code where they dropped part of the standards for the tertiary dwelling. So that's been corrected and it doesn't require a bylaw amendment.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Okay, are you ready to close the public hearing? David Callahan, is your hand up? Okay. Are we ready to close the public hearing? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Fritz moved and
Second.
John seconds. Roll call. Fritz?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Nat?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Judith? Aye. On the merits, is there a motion?
Motion to approve and give a positive recommendation.
Thank you, Fritz.
Second.
John seconded, and that's as revised as Leslie had indicated. Roll call. Fritz?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Nat?
Aye.
Dave? Judith? Aye. Okay, so that's the planning board items, and now we have, I'm going to suggest that you think you'd like a 10-minute break. Fritz, your hand's up.
Yes, I'm just raising a question. Did we leave 8 and 10 Appleton open? Do we need to deal with that?
Well, good question. I thought, we never heard back from the
Continued on pending hearing from the gentleman who wanted to speak. And I didn't.
Thanks for catching that, Fritz. I really appreciate it. So should we continue that? What do you think, Leslie?
I think this is a very straightforward article. It's 2 lots that are isolated in RC2. All of the surrounding lots are also in R5. I can't imagine it's something that's controversial. And I'm concerned that that person might have been caught in the group of hackers that we
Yeah.
had.
Yeah.
Oh.
So
Also, I think
I would
there's
suggest
been
that we
plenty of
go
time
ahead
to come back.
and close the hearing.
Okay, let's, Fritz, would you move to close the hearing?
I'm make a motion to close the public hearing on 8 and 10.
I'll second.
John seconds, roll call, Fritz,
All right,
John,
Aye.
Nat,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Judith, I, and on the merits, the motion to, recommend
Well,
adoption.
yes, to approve with a positive recommendation.
Fritz moved, seconded,
Aye. Or
John second.
Yes.
Roll call, Fritz,
All right,
John,
Aye.
Nat,
Aye.
Dave, Judith, I. Okay, so we're now done. Thanks again for catching that, Fritz. That was a weird experience there. I don't know what NCTV has to say about that, but sorry for the rocky start there. All right, I've got 6:07. Can we try to come back at 6:15? Okay, thanks, everybody.
How's your meeting going?
Okay, Susan advises for this Sunday, but wanted to know Saturdays, if you want to watch the Super Bowl.
I don't need to watch the Super Bowl.
That's what I thought, I'll call it that.
I'm in Stockholm already. Okay, I think I'll try some stroganoff.
Okay, it's in there, probably lukewarm, so you may want to
Just the way I like it.
Okay. You want to move it?
Pyrex is big. What do you do when somebody starts singing?
I basically said if you're not here for the meeting, please leave.
Can you shut them off?
I can't, but the Nantucket TV is monitoring, so maybe they could. I don't know, but you have to register there.
Pretty good stroganoff for the first day.
Dave, are you out? Dave Callahan, are you out in the fog somewhere? Are you on a fishing boat? Okay, we're waiting on Fritz and Campbell. There's Campbell, there's Fritz, okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're returning to the planning board meeting, and our view at this point is of citizen petitions. The first item is one that's been requested to be withdrawn, that zoning bylaw amendment to reduce the maximum allowed height in the commercial mid-island CMI district from 40 feet to 30 feet. Would you like to explain any of this, Leslie or Andrew? And then I think we need a motion to dispose of it probably.
I haven't spoken with the proponent of the article about it, but I would recommend that you make a motion to take no action.
So why is it marked request for withdrawal?
Megan, do we have something in our packet?
Catherine is the one who touched base with Val Oliver.
Madam Chair, could I just remind
Stephen?
you that this was considered, the board held public hearings at this last time, and that's consistent with your recommendation and our discussion at that time as well.
Yeah.
Yes, I trust we all remember that. Thank you. So even Catherine, is there anything you need to explain to us? I'm just confused a little by this flag that it's withdrawn.
Val had sent an email requesting to withdraw it.
To Catherine, do you know if she meant not to take it up tonight or if she meant that she was taking it away from town meeting?
The email that I received, I'm trying to locate it right now. Let me just.
I believe it was well before this was published.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Excuse me, didn't didn't we get a notice from Erica saying that the withdrawal had
They
sufficient
had brought the,
signatures for it to be withdrawn? Or did I misread that today?
that was my recollection, but I just wanted to be sure that if we dispose of it tonight, we're not mistakenly assuming that she was simply asking us to carry it over to another session so she could speak, but that's my recollection too. So
Yeah.
consistent with what Andrew said, maybe we need a motion that is to, what, would you repeat it, Andrew? I'm sorry. What you suggested, that we take no action?
Madam Chair, why don't we continue this to the next meeting so we can have total clarity on it? I think that would be best.
So moved.
Okay. Fritz, you want to move to continue it?
Continue it to the next meeting.
Thank you.
Second.
Nat, second. Roll call. Fritz,
Yes, aye.
Nat,
Aye.
Dave, you're muted. Unmute Dave.
Hi.
Okay, and John
Aye.
and Judith, aye. Thank you. I think it probably does mean that she's pulled it off the overall docket for the meeting, but I just would hate to make the process more convoluted if it turned out to be something else. Next one is zoning map amendment to place a property at 10 Clifton Street, currently located in the Sconset Residential 1 SR1 in the Sconset Old Historic SOH District. Megan.
That one was John Brescher's that he requested to continue.
Okay, because he's not available to be here tonight. So thank you. Is there a motion to continue this?
So moved.
Second.
Thanks. Fritz moved, Dave seconded. Roll call. Fritz,
Aye.
Nat,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Judith, aye. Next one, zoning map amendment to place the property at 3 Cobble Court, currently located in residential 10 R10 district in the commercial neighborhood CN district.
Madam
This
Chair.
is,
Sorry, Megan.
no, Andrew, you go ahead.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to point out that this is an article that was carried over. The board voted to support this article at last year's public hearing. And I believe it was, I'm not sure, I don't know exactly who called it over. I think it may be in a butter.
Okay, then Campbell, you're muted.
My apologies. I just have one quick question because I think today was the first time we actually got a map of that area that they were speaking of as a I don't know, a bird's eye view kind of a thing. So it seems like it is surrounded by, I believe it's commercial neighborhood that it wants to go to, but it's part of like a peninsula that sticks into the commercial neighborhood. So I was just sort of wondering through you to Andrew and Leslie, what's the overall plan for the rest of that peninsula, if you know what I'm speaking of? Do we have a vision for that area?
This is a citizen proposal, so it's the citizen request. So I don't know if it may be to frame it a little differently. What does Plus see the area likely to be developing as? Is that kind of the question, rather than what they're anticipating bring happen?
Right. Right.
Leslie or Andrew?
Well, I
Madam
think,
Chair, oh, go ahead.
Megan, can you pull a map up? Do we have one? I mean, there is a commercial node around the high school area, which this is a part of, and it connects over to the commercial area the hospital overlay district
Twin Village.
and Gwynn Village.
Mhm.
So this was identified as a future commercial node.
Okay, so we're sort of expecting maybe the rest of the surrounding area is going to go to commercial neighborhood. Is that a thought?
I think at some point that would be, reasonable to fill in.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Question?
Megan, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just had a question for you, Madam Chair, as we go through these citizen articles. Do you want me to article by article just promote the proponent of said article as a panelist in case you want to have open dialogue, or should I keep them as a raise hand only?
I think raise hand
Okay.
works. I don't know what the Zoom bombing was, but I'm just cautious about giving extra permissions if we're in some kind of a cyber episode or something, if that's all right. I do wanted to ask you though, Megan, and Fritz, you had asked this afternoon about these are citizen rezoning requests, and we have a standard protocol about the questions we want answered. I saw Carl Audison had his hand up. I'm not sure if this is his, I know he's got a submission here. I'm not sure if this is the one, but I think it would be better as part of the process to have the staff provide the overview of the responses, and then we can inquire of the applicant if you don't mind.
Sure. So I'll share the screen for the sheet that was provided last year with the answers to those questions.
Okay.
Do we need a refresher as to what those questions are?
Yeah.
So that
I
these
think that'd be a
make
good
more
idea.
sense? Okay.
That's kind of small print for some of us, so.
Yeah.
A little fuzzy.
Just pretend it's in the 70s.
Is the proposed amendment consistent with the land use and zoning district designation of the surrounding area? Question 2 is, are the uses allowed within the proposed zoning district complementary to the character of the parcels included in the zoning map amendment and the surrounding area? Describe the existing conditions and intended outcome.
Megan, if you don't mind, I'm sorry to be switching gears on you here, but I think if you read the question and then give the answer and then read the question, give the answer, I know that means you have to go back and forth, but that's
Fine.
probably the most efficient way to do it.
Okay, so on that first question, is the proposed amendment consistent with the land use and zoning district designation of the surrounding area? He answered yes, it was fully discussed and determined to be so at the January 16th, 2020 meeting. Are the uses allowed within the proposed zoning district complementary to the character of the parcels included in the zoning map amendment and the surrounding area? Describe the existing conditions and intended outcome. Yes, they are complementary uses, housing and/or professional use. Does the proposed amendment create nonconformities that do not currently exist? If so, what type? No nonconformities of any kind are anticipated. Does the proposed amendment create additional potential for new building lots beyond what's allowed in the current district? If so, how many? No new lots, only as currently allowed under pre-existing zoning. Does the proposed amendment result in a change to the allowed ground cover ratio? If yes, what is the difference? An analysis of each property included in the proposed rezoning is helpful to the board's consideration. ground cover change in the change from R10 to CN is proposed. Let's see, does the proposed amendment implement a specific goal or policy of the master plan? The proposed amendment is designed to promote the highest and best use in the surrounding area. If the proposal is within an area where an area plan has been approved by the NP and EDC, is the proposal consistent with the area plan? It totally mirrors, emulates the existing zoning planning in the surrounding area. Has this or similar proposed amendments been included on the warrant within the past 2 years? He said no. And this one might be tricky. Attendance at the planning board meeting is expected so that you could present your proposal and respond to questions. Not asking for any special consideration beyond what we currently have provided.
Yeah, and let me just say on that, I had a call from another applicant who'd been through last year's full process and said I didn't think they needed to come and be here again to do the same drill if we'd already done it thoroughly the first time. So that's our general expectation, but that may have a bearing. But I see Mr. Otteson is here, and maybe now's the time to invite him to comment if he'd like. Thanks for being with us, Mr. Otteson. I think you're still muted, but hope you can see how to unmute. Megan, if that's an issue, then I guess you do.
I think you can hear me now, right?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for having us here. I'm here with my wife, Susan, and we are the owners of Lot 3 Cobble Court. So basically, we're asking the same thing that we did last year. We would like for the board's vote of support for a zoning change for Lot 3 to CN. The CN zoning is now the dominant theme of the surrounding neighborhood, and we believe represents the best and highest use of our property too. And I believe Mr. Vorse is in agreement with that. I haven't spoken to him lately, but some time ago. Until quite recently, my wife's family has owned Lot 3 and almost all of the other immediately surrounding lots near it for roughly 100 years. And now that the CN zoning is the choice of the majority of the neighbors, we are merely asking for the same opportunity.
Okay, thank you. Let me invite members of the public, if there's others who'd like to speak on this matter, this is your opportunity to do that. Just raise your hand and we'll acknowledge you. Not seeing anyone, let's see if anybody on the board has questions for Mr. Otteson.
Madam Chair.
Andrew, yes.
I just want to reinforce what Mr. Otteson said. He was very diligent in his article last year. And I remember the board discussion quite clearly. This is a reasonable use for this particular area, and staff continues to support the proposal.
Thank you. Anyone on the board want to raise questions to Mr. Otteson or to have further discussion, or is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Thanks, Fritz. Second, someone?
Second. Sorry.
I think that was Nat.
Yeah, John just
So-
got in there.
He's got the upper Liberty Square here, so he gets it every so often. So roll call: Fritz,
Aye.
Dave, John,
Aye.
Nat,
Aye.
Judith, I. And now on the merits. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to give it a positive recommendation.
Thank Nat. Is there a second?
Second.
That was Dave. Roll call: Nat,
Aye.
Fritz,
Aye.
Dave, John,
Aye.
Judith, I. Thank you, Mr. Otteson. We appreciate your being with us, and thank you for your careful work on this. Next up is zoning map amendment to, yes, Nat.
No, I'm good.
Oh, okay.
No,
I thought I
sorry.
heard somebody.
Judith,
I just-
excuse me, Judith. Did I
Yes,
miss the first one, 10 and 12 Young's Way? Did we skip over that, or was that?
That's the one I was about to go to. I'm sorry.
Okay, maybe I have a different order. Sorry.
Yeah, I printed this agenda about 4
Yeah.
times, and every time
Okay.
so sorry about that.
Yeah,
But we'll get there next. I hope anyway. Zoning map amendment to place properties at 10 and 12 Young's Way, currently located in the residential R5 district in the commercial neighborhood CN district.
Madam Chair, so this is a citizen article. I don't know if the Schultzes are here or not, but this was something that I'd spoken with Mary Ann Hanley about when we rezoned Young's Way, I believe at the last town meeting out of RC2. I met with them. They initially chose R5 for these 2 lots and have since changed their mind and want to go to CN, which is consistent with that part of Young's Way and consistent with their health club use. And we support this amendment.
Thank you. I see Mr. Schultz is here and ready to speak when we're ready for him. Will you have your hand up?
No, Madam Chair, through you, I was just going to say I have the questionnaire document, and this one's a little bit more legible when it went through the scanner. So I'd be happy to do a screen share if you would like.
Let's get Campbell's question and then put that up, and then we'll hear from Mr. Schultz. Campbell?
Yeah, I just have a quick question, because like I said earlier, that whole Young's Way, Tom's Way, got a little confusing for me. So, and there was no map to go with this. So how does that fit into the rezoning that we're proposing to the town regarding the Young's Way CN area? Does my question make sense for?
Part of Young's Way is already CN. These 2 properties start the R5 on that side of Young's Way. So this would just be taking them out of R5 and adding them into the CN section closer to Old South Road.
Right, so that just still keeps us with the CN up by Old South Road, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. That was my only question. I'm not opposed. I just was wondering where we were. Great, thank you.
Anybody have a question? Megan has the screenshot up. Anybody with a question on that? Otherwise, Mr. Schultz, welcome, and please feel free to comment.
Hi, this is Sandy Schultz, and
Hi,
how are you
thanks
today?
for being with us.
Thank you. We own 10 and 12 Young's Way, also 14 and 16 Young's Way. And 10 and 12 Young's Way has been a commercial property since 1984, when it was originally built as a racket club. So it's never had any other use other than commercial. So I think when we initially spoke with Leslie, we were, I may be a little bit confused. We wanted to keep the commercial neighborhood for 10 and 12, or make 10 and 12 commercial neighborhood, and we weren't opposed to R5 for 14 and 16 Youngs Way. They haven't been developed, and they are a part of an association. So for them to be, R5 is perfectly fine. It was just when we realized the 10 and 12 fell under that, what it ultimately did was it made our building non-conforming. And that's where our concern came in, and that is why we submitted the citizens article.
Thank you. Are there questions from members of the board? Ladies and gentlemen, if there's anyone else here who'd like to speak on this matter, this is your opportunity. Please put up your hand logo and we'll call on you. And if we don't see anybody soon, we'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close.
Thank you, John.
Second.
Nat seconds. Roll call. John.
Aye.
Nat.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Judith. On the merits.
Motion for a positive recommendation.
Second.
Thank you. Moved by John, seconded by Dave. Roll call. John.
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Nat.
Aye.
Judith. Aye. Thank you, Ms. Schultz. We appreciate it. Hope we didn't keep you too long there, and I hope good luck with that.
Very much.
Okay. Next one. I hope I'm somewhat in the right order, but I'm sorry I printed these multiple times and I lost track of which one is what moment in time here. Next one I have is zoning map amendment to place 8 properties on the north side of Pulpit Road, currently located in the Village Residential VR District in the Village Neighborhood District.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So this article was before the board last year and the board gave it a negative recommendation. There's sort of a replacement article, which is that before us tonight or is that advertised for later?
I think it's for later. Let's see, I printed
It's the next article on the agenda, going from VR to R20. But there's like 4 separate articles that all kind of go together.
Okay.
So this article is something that we would continue our basically do not or take no action in favor of the other article that's been submitted.
Yeah.
How
So you
about
want a motion for that?
Before we get a motion, I wondered if it would make sense, Andrew and Leslie, if you kind of sketch the sequence that are related, so we have all those in front of us. I see Linda Williams would like to comment too, but we might as well have the whole picture if you would be so kind.
So on this particular article was submitted by a citizen. It would have basically taken 8 properties on the north side of Pulpus, which are currently in a residential zone, and put them in a commercial zone. The impact of that was to create quite a bit of potential subdivision, and it would have, I guess, greatly expanded the ground cover. Through the board's discussion with the applicants, I think none of them really expressed an interest in going from residential to commercial, but they wanted the board to consider, the impact to these properties by commercial uses across the street, by changes in the general area, and basically allowing them to have some additional level of ground cover, but where they would retain their overall basic layout. So I believe that's what the new article does. So again, at the time, we didn't know this would be coming I think there was an expectation that a new article would be submitted. So that new article is submitted, and it basically would keep the properties in their residential zoning. It would extend the town district, which is a concept that we did discuss with the board, because there is now sewer in the area. And this would provide some additional ground cover, but not all of the other things like re-subdivision and commercial uses extending to that side of the property. So that's where we are with this particular two articles.
The board members, before we hear from the proponent, are there questions you want to ask staff? Megan, was your hand up, Megan? Okay, Campbell?
Yes, thank you. So I just had one question to, through you, Madam Chair, to Andrew. I see that this is sort of extending the town overlay district, and I'm just wondering if there's an overall idea of where, conceptually, where there is going to be a line so that we have, you know, the less dense and the country overlay holds, if you see what I mean. I mean, we're starting a town overlay at the beginning of Monomoy, which if you extend that out through Monomoy, becomes even denser in its development than we've recently seen. And I'm just wondering if there's conceptually an idea where a town county line might run, if you see what I mean.
I do, yeah. I mean, generally the area, there were basically early subdivisions from the 1920s that where there are smaller lots basically around Chatham Road and, you know, that particular section of Pulpus Road. Most of Monomoy is comfortably within the LUG1, so I don't see any expansion, you know, into that area at all. You know, across the street on Pulpus Road, we have the island, you know, the Island Lumber site, which is, you know, has expanded quite a bit. Luckily for us, that was, you know, not developed to its former potential, which that had been in the RC2 district beforehand. So basically, you know, we've reduced the potential build out quite a bit on that site, but it does impact these particular properties, and they're interspersed with existing commercial uses. So, you know, we have I guess, what was the old bus yard at Don Allen, you know, that's now the, they call it the action station. We have the Monomoy, you know, we have Comcast that's there. And then we have Don Allen, which was put into a country commercial district. So that sort of ends it on that end. So I think we're looking at a very distinct group of properties, you know, that have some impacts that the rest of the area, you know, doesn't have. Clearly, we would not be extending this into the majority of Monomoy, like I said, because it already is zoned LUG1, and most of the properties there, you know, comfortably conform to that. So
are we thinking that excuse me, Madam Chair, are we thinking that the extent might be along that inspection station, Don Allen area?
yeah, the road that runs sort of back behind these properties and is parallel to Milestone is Chatham.
Right.
And there are some smaller properties back there. Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So, you know, generally, that's the area we're talking about.
Okay, because I know that is, well, it's all gotten a lot more crowded, but anyway, I just trying to visualize where, with these citizens petitions, you know, where they intersect with overall planning on your department's part. So I appreciate your response.
Fritz?
Yeah, just a point of order. We've got there are 3 proposed amendments, all dealing with this north side of Pulpus Road, Chatham Road. Which one are we talking about, or are we talking about all of them at the same time?
What I suggested was that we get the background presentation on all of them at once, and then we can talk about them one at a time. But I thought that the questions would bleed from one into the next. So
from my point, I think I just need clarification of when you put all of these together, whether it's together or separately, what is the net result? Is this more density and development? Is it a change in use? The type of development? What is it?
Andrew, maybe Megan, you want to put back the map that you just had up?
Madam Chair, the one that, again, that the board gave a negative recommendation to, which was the one from last year, which would have extended, which would have created village neighborhood properties. That one should continue to get a negative recommendation from the board, because that would change the characteristics. So if we could focus on that one, a motion and to give this a negative recommendation would be in order, as consistent with what the board voted last year.
Andrew,
I would agree to try and minimize what we're looking at, because it looks like we're looking at 3 overall petitions at once. So if we're looking at a negative from last year and nothing's going to change, then I'd suggest that we narrow it down to 2, and then maybe narrow it down to the better one.
Right.
Okay, but procedurally, what I'm trying to do is to be sure that everybody understands the big picture, which I think is what Fritz is asking about. It sounds like you feel oriented enough that you want to go back and take these a piece at a time, which is great. I'm going to give Linda then the charge. Linda, could you speak to these one at a time, since we've had a broader landscape painted by staff?
Yeah, I've been going bonkers here because I can solve this whole thing. I'm involved with all of them, clearly. This first one, we don't want to go forward with. That's been pretty clear. So if you want to do a negative or take no action on it, that would be great. The next one is what we need to be concentrating on, because I listed out every single lot that's involved. Is this the correct one? Yes.
Which one do you want me to go to, Linda?
This, I believe it's this one. Yes, and we're going to R20. It's going from 20,000 to 20,000. The only change, really, it's still the same frontage. It's still the same setbacks. The only thing that changes is that they get 2.5% more ground cover. Since most of these structures, as you will see on my chart below this, is I put in the questionnaire. I don't know if you got it today, but this is the map. We're going to be tying into the rotary, which is where the town overlay ends right now, and run it up to the end of this little grouping here. Most of these houses are 1 story. There's one that has 8 on it. There is the Comcast building. There is the inspection station. The 2.5% more ground cover would be great, but do you have what I turned in that was mailed out to you this afternoon, so we can go over that instead?
This is what I have up on the screen right now.
Well, I sent in the questionnaire with the chart.
This is what I have.
Where's the questionnaire?
This is the questionnaire.
No, I have that, sent that, all those questions in that you asked me to the yesterday or day before. That's what you and I talked about trying to find this morning. Catherine has it too. They said they sent it out to the board members.
Yep.
Well, Linda, I would just say we get, as you know, we get a lot of things that come in on the kind of at the 11th hour. So maybe you would walk us through your
Well,
answer?
the questionnaire, Judith, is kind of critical, and I sent it in 3 days ago, but that's beside the point. The office has been closed for 3 days. But if you can find the questionnaire, you had the questionnaire on Otison's or one before that where they answered the questions that you guys had asked. I have a chart of every one of these lots. Some of them are sub-minimum. Most are around 20,000, just a little over 20,000. They won't be affected by it, but it will give them an extra 2.5% ground cover. This is the way that we thought would be the best, rather than arguing people about the VR and pools, anything else that got us involved in the negative way with Nantucket last year or the year before that. So Andrew suggested, given the underlying development of these lots and how small they are, and the fact that there is a water across the street, there's the 33 lot potential on the island lumber. And we are right next to where the town overlay and the booting into another smaller, more dense district. So we thought that this was the best way. We had a lot of discussions in the office about this, and they thought this was the best way to go this time.
Megan, I'm going to send you, I see this came in a package from Catherine, and I think this is the one that is referenced as coming from Robert Van Kampen. Is that correct, Linda?
Yeah, it's my memo, but it's on his behalf.
Okay.
Because I answered all the questions on the questionnaire that you guys had drafted a couple of years ago that you asked us all to do, and I answered on every one of these.
Okay, well, I'm just so you know, it's on its way, about to go to
live
to Megan, because I don't want to. My internet's iffy enough. I don't want to try to do share screen or something like that, because it might bring the whole mess down.
Yeah, and I don't do screen share. I barely do Zoom. It's still an alien concept.
You were here when we had our alien experience earlier.
Yeah, remember, if you remember last year, didn't we get invaded by somebody with bad language?
I think that was the HDC.
Oh yeah, it was bad. Depending on what program you're using, they can invade it, and other programs they can't.
This is the chart I had pulled up.
Yeah, we go.
Maybe it wasn't on the screen share, but this is what we were looking at.
Okay, so I went and I digested every single parcel in here. In your motion, you have to include 2 parcels that fell off, but they're on the map, but they fell off the chart. So Andrew told me to put them on here. You'll see them down here on the bottom. You'll see that 1-story, 2-story, a garage apartment, 1.5-story, 2-story, 1-story, garage apartment, 1-story, Don Allen, 2-story with this is garage apartment, first 1-story, 1.5-story. So they're all floating around, most of them in 1-stories. And a lot of these people have owned their property for decades. And now their kids are older and they need more space. It's an interesting year-round neighborhood for 90% of it. And then you have the one with all the 8 cottages, which is Monomoy Village there. So it's an interesting kind of an eclectic year-round neighborhood in the middle of all this other chaos. And I answered all the questions above if you didn't get a chance to look at them. I think the biggest thing is that the zoning isn't really changing. It's just changing into the town district, which means it has to go to the R20.
I'm going to ask, just this is also so anybody else who's still with us who may want to comment is familiar with what the discussion is, because they probably don't have these questionnaires since they came in after the agenda packet. So Megan, could you just kind of scan and summarize these one at a time the way you've got it laid out right now? I hope the board can read it, but
I didn't take a chance with my handwriting. I typed it.
Thank you.
Can you guys see what's on the screen? Because I think this is the same document I had up before. And Linda said she couldn't see it, and Leslie texted me that she couldn't see it. So I just want to make sure you guys are seeing a Word document that that Linda drafted. Okay.
I'm hearing somebody ask, a male voice asking something. I don't know.
Fritz.
Fritz, thank you, Fritz.
Yeah, I just want to kind of voice a little bit of annoyance. And the little bit of annoyance is we have a long agenda and we have a lot of things to consider. And when something like this, a document which obviously Linda has spent a great deal of time and effort on, is coming in and we're looking at it with no notice, no prior, I mean, regardless, I understand the question of when it was sent in, but the practical point is we're not seeing it until right now. And we're going to go through this lengthy document and taking a lot of time. And personally, I would just rather see this continued to the next meeting so we can have a chance to take a look at it. The bottom line question I have is, what does the change in the town overlay, if that's the only effect other than the 2.5% ground cover, what is the change in the town overlay do for this particular properties?
I'll answer before Andrew does, only because what's changed drastically here is that they all have sewer now. We didn't have sewer and water before. We have sewer and water now.
No, not what has changed. What would change? What does it give? What does this give the applicant that they don't already have?
Madam Chair, if I may, and maybe I'm wrong, so correct me. But this is, the way I'm looking at it, I'm thinking opposite of what we just talked about out in Cisco. We're reversing it. We're taking it out of the village. We're putting it into the R20. We're adding 2.5% ground cover instead of taking it away. And we're also eliminating the special permit for a pool in the village and making it a right through application.
Folks, I'm going to suggest, out of deference to everybody on the board and in case anybody in the public wants to comment, that we carry this over till Monday. I think we have, Linda, are you available Monday?
Was this is going to Monday or is it going to the 18th?
I think we can handle it Monday. Isn't that right, Megan? I thought we had these also noticed and listed. Megan saying yes.
Yep, they're at your discretion, according to how much time we may have allocated at the end of the public hearings. But in terms of the length of the agenda, it is shorter than other agendas we've seen in meetings of recent past. So we should have time to be able to discuss this further on Monday.
What about the posting, 48-hour notice?
Yep,
I think it's
already
posted. It's already posted.
Great, that's fine. Monday's fine because it'll give you a chance to look at it, but I was
Yeah,
told.
I just think it's complicated enough, the fact that there's layers of discussion about it. It's a large enough area. And some of it is new, so we can't simply refer back to the discussion last time. So I'd entertain a motion to continue until Monday. Andrew, is that okay with you, Leslie?
Yep.
Cool.
Motion
Fritz,
to
you wanna-
continue.
John, Fritz, you want a second?
Yep, as long as we clarify what we're continuing.
Okay, in my view, we're continuing
Three.
3 items, the
All
8
three. Okay.
properties,
That's
the
fine.
village residential, and the 8 and 10 Chatham Road.
As
Okay,
well as there's one more, but I don't believe you're going to see that until the 18th, which is also involved with this, but I'll explain that on Monday.
I'll second.
Before we make a motion, can I ask a question?
Hold on just a second.
Okay,
Motion, just a second.
Okay,
The,
never mind.
No. There's a motion on the table, but that doesn't mean we can't have discussion.
I want to go back to what Andrew suggested. I think John also chimed in. Should we just vote to remove the VRVN one from this list now and then continue the remaining articles? I'm not trying to be, persistent, but I think we should have done that already.
I wouldn't do that now, only because of the third one in the list So it's a complication that will be explained on the 18th, but I would put all three over so we can have a more rounded discussion about what's the one that's missing from this list so far.
Leslie?
I just, to follow up on Linda and Nat's comment, I think Nat's talking about the VN article, which I thought Linda had agreed is pretty much off the
Right.
table.
The top one, the first one from last year, the original article. We need to, I thought we should get rid of
If
that.
we're
just
going to do
clean it
that,
up.
folks, if we're going to do that, I'm going to have to go back to the public hearing, invite anybody who's to comment on that who wants to before we act.
All right.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah,
So
just forget it. It's fine.
there may be nobody who wants to comment. It's
Yeah.
just
It's okay.
we get in this kind of stage in the meeting, it's a little bit harder to manage the pieces. So if your pleasure is, we could withdraw the motions and I can post that. Linda suggests keeping it as it is. If there's no strong feeling, I'd suggest we keep the three together. Is that agreeable?
Yeah.
We can, yeah, I agree. I'd like to keep my motion with the edited three to be continued to next meeting. We can always take that up at the onset and eliminate one. So I'll remain motion to approve or continue to three.
Fritz, you agree? Okay. Roll call, John,
Aye.
Fritz,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Nat,
Aye.
Judith, aye. Okay, so those three items, and they'll be considered each separately, will be
Judith,
taken
you
up.
may want to do that to the next one also, because I also have a write up on the next one as well. If you didn't have time to read that one either.
Let me just take them one. I just need to kind of stage these. I want to be sure we're done with the three we just talked about before we go on to anything else.
Okay, and I'm on the next three.
Is everybody clear and agreed that that's where we are? And is there anything else that we want to ask the staff to be prepared to comment on, or Linda to be prepared to comment on? The question I heard from Fritz last on the table was, what difference does it make for action that might be taken under the second or third of these in terms of, other than ground cover, what other impacts might there be, right? That was your remaining question. Yes. I don't think we had a full answer on that. We'd also ask, I think, Megan, if you're still putting any amendments to the packet together to be sure that that letter gets, or any of these that we haven't taken up. And I'd have to say, in keeping with what Fritz said, for myself in future, if we don't get the citizen questionnaire responses amply in time in advance, I don't think we should be willing to hold the hearing, because that's part of our process we're committed to. And we have I know the staff's managing a lot of stuff coming in, but my impression is that citizens haven't necessarily been doing those workups until staff has gone back and said, you got to turn it in, you got to turn it in. So I think when we debrief this year's cycle, I think we really need to put some teeth into the expectation. If you're coming up for hearing, you need to get that in so we can have consideration, because some folks here are working all day long. Other people have other obligations, even if they're retired. That's not the whole of it. The other of it is, this is a public hearing so that public citizens can have a say. And if they don't have the relevant information, they don't really have a fair shot at making their views known. So I would just want to put a bookend on all of this to that effect. Is that agreeable to everybody? About anything else you want to say as we close up this little episode? Okay, Campbell.
Just have one quick thought, because I know that while these properties have been owned for a long time and that idea comes through often, they're also very susceptible to future sale. So I'm sort of trying to get an idea of what the future build out could be, or development potential is, regardless of its current status. I think John at one time said you always have to expect these things to be sold and someone to come in with their own ideas. So I'm just sort of, wondering that in this area as well. Thank you.
That would be
All on the
helpful,
chart
Linda.
for you guys. I put it all on the chart for you guys.
Okay, but just be prepared to speak to that if you don't mind. And are we ready to turn the page on this one? Anything else anybody wants to say? So Linda, it sounds like since there's another workup on the subsequent one about Old South Road and Airport Road,
Yeah.
perhaps, are you suggesting we continue that?
I'll give you time to read that one, and there's a new write-up on 25 Rugged. I don't know about 18. I told him I would stand in for him on 18 Evergreen, but there's a write-up on Old South Road, and there's a write-up on Rugged Road.
I'd say we should consider continuing Old South and continuing Rugged. Do others have that too? Again, we've been through the agenda. It's really quite a light agenda otherwise, but I think we can do justice to these if we carry them over without being unfair to anybody.
Cool.
But I ask your opinion. If you're psyched to pursue these and want to proceed, you're free.
Well, I'd like you to go ahead and read what we submitted, so that would work for me. I'll go ahead and get through 18 Evergreen. That's pretty simple.
Campbell?
Yeah, sorry to keep interrupting everyone. I just on the Airport Old South Road, and you may have this already addressed, Linda, but one of my queries to myself is, so what's the plan in that area? What kinds of businesses or business, residential, or, what are we sort of looking at that? Is that going to be a sub-industrial area? Just trying to get a feel for that, because it is a corner lot that takes up quite a few properties, but it is a blank slate, if you will. So just trying to get an idea of, where you're thinking, or the, planning department might be thinking that development would look like, or, house, or what have you. So that would be one of my questions for future.
Okay, I pretty much laid that out in the questionnaire.
I thought you might have, but I just thought I'd get it out there while we were.
I'm gonna say though, let's not try to get into partial substantive discussion here. If I could get a motion to continue the Old South Road item and the Rugged Road item, I'd appreciate that till the 8th.
Do we have to take those separately, Madam Chair? Or continue?
Why not?
Okay, I'll make a motion to continue Old South.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Roll call, John.
Aye.
Nat.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Judith. Aye. How about Rugged Road, John?
Also continue, motion to continue 25 Rugged Road.
Second.
Dave seconded, John moved. Roll call, John.
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Nat.
Aye.
Judith. Aye. Okay, going back now to zoning map amendment to place property at 18 Evergreen Way, currently located in Lug 1 district into residential 40 R40 district. Just to be clear though, do we have the workup on this? Did we get a workup on this enough in advance that we could have reviewed it?
I don't know. I didn't put this one in.
Then
So
I'm
if they
gonna
didn't get one,
suggest-
I can do a write-up on it for him, but I don't know if you got one for this one.
I don't think we did. Megan's making a face that makes me think she doesn't think we did either. Catherine's saying, no, we didn't. So John, how about a motion to continue 18 Evergreen Way?
I'll make that motion to continue 18 Evergreen.
Where is this
That's
one
the
going? Monday also?
Monday,
Yes.
the 8th.
All right, I'll try to work up something on it tonight for you guys.
Is there, Megan?
There's
I'm getting ready for a second, but if you want to stop us, the train, Megan,
Muted, Megan.
you're muted.
I have too many screens going. We did receive a workup around 4 p.m., so that has not circulated yet, but we do have it.
Okay, so
keep my
Linda,
motion
you
to
don't have to
continue.
write it up, but it's still being continued till the 8th if we have a second.
Second.
Dave seconded. Roll call. John,
Aye.
Nat,
Aye.
Fritz,
Aye.
Dave. Dave,
Aye.
Judith, he's caught in the palm tree.
He's caught in the palm tree.
Days. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Linda. And just for the record, let's have some kind of return when we get through this that has a board statement of policy that we will not begin a hearing on anything unless we have the expected background within a stated time in advance of the meeting. Because I think we adopted the policy, but people aren't taking it to heart, and it's not fair to the staff either. On top of everything else they're doing, they have to go hunt down people and then get things late. So, okay, next one, zoning map amendment to place 3 properties on Driscoll Way currently located in Lug 3 in the Lug 1 district. This is one we discussed at some length last year. Andrew, do you want to refresh us, or Leslie?
Madam Chair, I don't believe anything has changed. We have no new information on this particular one. I don't see why the board would change its recommendation from last year.
And that recommendation was?
Take no action.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, if there's anyone here who wishes to speak on this matter, this is a public hearing. Please raise your hand. Linda Williams, guess what? There you are.
It's this time of year. I don't believe, he doesn't want to go forward with this. So keeping it, take no action at this time. We still do need to, I was involved with the Tom Nevers area plan. This had come up about these larger lots on Tom Nevers West. At some point, we'll have to reconstitute the area plan work group out there and just sort of go over this and make recommendations and stuff, because things have changed a lot in Tom Nevers since we did the plan, actually. But right now he's not going forward with it, and I believe there is a buyer for one of the 3-acre lots. So that may alleviate the pressure that the property owner is under.
Thank you. I think our view has been that we're starting with some other areas that are already working on the small area plans, but we recognize the need to go back to Tom Nevers kind of in the next wave, or when we have the staff capacity to do that. So we appreciate that. So is there a motion to close the public hearing?
Yeah, I'll make that.
Nat moves on seconds. Roll call. Nat.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Judith. Aye. And I think the motion would be to take no action.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to take no action on the Tom Nevers Driscoll article. Yeah.
Thank you. And John seconded. Roll call. Nat.
Aye. Sorry.
John.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Judith. Aye. Thank you. Thanks again, Linda. Okay, moving right along. I see zoning bylaw amendment to make technical non-substantive changes to section 22 island perimeter restrictions and to add a new requirement for the special permit granting authority to find that the proposed extension, reconfiguration, or addition is not more detrimental to the marine environment than the existing structure. So I believe Emily Molden is here to present this, but staff, do you want to comment on this beforehand? Leslie?
I'll comment on it. I worked with Emily on this. She wanted to add the new finding, which I originally had some concerns about because I wasn't sure that it was something really that the zoning board should be involved with, but she pointed out that there was other language in that about referring the application to marine and coastal resources or natural resources, and that they could assist the ZBA in making that finding. And then she and I worked together on some just technical changes to make that section of the bylaw a little bit more user-friendly. So I'm supportive of her article.
Thank you. Andrew, did you want to comment?
No, I'm supportive of it as well.
Thank you. Emily, you're up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I probably don't need to take a lot of your time, but just a little bit of background. As was explained, a lot of the edits in here, Leslie helped me with just to clarify some of the language that I thought was a little bit confusing. Essentially, what this article does, or what this bylaw does as is it prohibits new residential docks and piers in the harbor, but it allows for the repair, maintenance, and reconfiguration of existing residential docks and piers as long as there's not a net increase of the structure's footprint. And one of the concerns that came up was for existing docks and piers that may be shorter and wider, there could be an application to reconfigure that pier as a narrower, longer structure that may result in impacts to an eelgrass bed, shellfish habitat, to navigation or fishing access. And the initial intent of this bylaw, which was a recommendation that came out of the initial harbor plan back in 2008, I believe, was to prevent impacts from docks and piers to the marine environment and to fishing and navigation. So the language that I've inserted is just to make sure that if a reconfiguration is going to move the structure to a different part of the harbor by extending it, for example, that there's an opportunity for the harbor master and the Natural Resources Department to make a recommendation and comment to the ZBA, and so they can make that determination that it's not actually more detrimental than the existing structure if that footprint changes. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Board members, let me give you a chance to ask questions. And I see Linda Williams wants to speak after that. John, you looked like you were about to say something.
Not at all. I was actually saying, surprisingly, it makes sense.
Oh, okay. Anybody else? Questions, comments for Emily? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing. There's not many of you left out there, but we appreciate your fervor. Linda Williams.
Hey, looks like you're going to get done before 8 o'clock, which is, I think, your target time.
It was, but don't break my heart, Linda.
I was always concerned about this. I was on the harbor plan work group that created the harbor plan many years ago now. And I'm questioning the ZBA being the permit granting authority for this. They don't have marine basis, but I'm also questioning the tenet that you cannot, neither the planning board or the ZBA can defer action in a decision to another board in a decision. And I'm concerned about deferring action, or else the decision is not filed, it's not made until those other entities weigh in, because you cannot defer in a decision to action by another entity. That's one question. And the other question is, I'm reading the language that I'm looking at here in the agenda papers, and it doesn't specifically say piers, docks and piers. It says construction. Does that apply to, I've got a lot of clients out particularly off of Pulpus Road in Quidnet and Matticat that have houses and boathouses and sheds within 300 feet of the waterfront, shorefront. Does this only apply to docks and piers, or does it actually apply to duly erected, permitted, CO'd dwellings and boathouses?
Okay, thank you for those questions. I see Emily Molden. Would you like to respond?
Sure. Yeah, the proposed change is only applicable to docks, piers, or wharves as it's written in the section of the bylaw. As far as deferring the decision, I think that the bylaw speaks to referring special permit granting authorities to other town departments for their input. And I guess I would ask Andrew and Leslie if this is consistent with any other provisions of the bylaw in that it does do that.
Leslie?
So section 30, which is special permits, specifically talks about referring applications to other boards for comment. And if those comments aren't received within X number of days, I think it's 45 days, but I don't have the bylaw in front of me, then the assumption is that the board that it was referred to or department isn't opposed to it. So that's built into the bylaw. It's not deferring action. It's simply referring it for comment.
Thank you. Andrew, did you want to comment?
No, Leslie covered that.
Okay. Board members, let's see, I'm just going to double check if there's anybody in the public who had wanted to speak to this. Please raise your hand, otherwise we'll probably be closing the public hearing. Board members, do you have questions or comments?
No.
Is there a motion to close public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Nat, seconded by Dave. Roll call. Nat.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Judith. Aye. Who did I miss?
John, aye.
Yeah. Okay, I knew I got those J's turned out. Okay. On the merits.
Make a motion to approve the technical changes. You know, what are we calling this? I mean, bylaw amendment. You know, is that the right way to say it, Leslie?
To the island perimeter.
You're the one that usually has all these housekeeping ones, so you have a term for this.
Yes.
Whatever the motion needs to be.
Approve the changes proposed to section 22 island perimeter restrictions.
Yeah, there you go. That's my motion. Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call. Nat.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Judith. Aye. Thank you. Thank you, everybody on that one. And then let's see. Last one, this is Rick Atherton's. He called me today and asked if he should come, and I said I thought it had been fully considered last year. He didn't. I seem to remember we made him come back and stay late and come back again, and so I thought very likely we'd probably review the bidding where we were. So I told him I didn't think he needed to come, but we'll have a hearing nonetheless. Andrew, Leslie, you want to summarize this in where we left it last year?
I can, Madam Chair. So basically, the motion for last year was moved not to adopt the article. Planning board comment was the board acknowledges that the intent of this article may have merit. However, significantly more discussion is needed to develop this concept. Requiring such a waiver as a prerequisite to the issuance of a building permit may not be the most appropriate approach. Input from various town departments as well as boards, committees, commissions who are involved with coastal issues should occur before this type of concept is adopted. The Finance Committee motion was to support the Planning Board motion. And quite frankly, I see no change at all from last year. There are active groups like PAC Group and others looking at this issue. And I don't think we should consider, I think this article is not a good idea anyway, as you well know. And I don't see any reason why we should change until those groups have finished their work.
Can I ask Fritz, just for clarification, is CRAC likely to be addressing something in this arena? Should we make some reference to CRAC in particular in our comment, for example? I just want to be sure it's more current.
Madam Chair, I don't think I'd have any way of predicting that. The consultant is going to be coming by the end, when the report comes out, presumably at the end of the year, there will be a number of recommendations that are made, some in the area of land use regulation, but what they might be, there's been no discussion of that at all.
Okay, it's just helpful to be sure we're up to date. Leslie, did you want to say anything further? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing. If there's anybody who'd like to speak on this matter, this is your opportunity. Please indicate by raising your hand logo and we'll call on you. I don't see anybody, so if there's a
Motion
motion.
to close.
Thank you, John. Second.
Second.
Roll call, John,
Aye.
Nat,
Aye.
Fritz,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Judith, aye. On the merits.
I'll make a negative motion not to adopt with comments similar to last year.
Thank you, John. Nat seconds. Roll call, John,
Aye.
Nat,
Aye.
Fritz,
Aye.
Dave. That was aye, Dave. That was.
He's backed into the ocean now.
He's meditating. Oh, okay. Judith, aye. Okay. So I think that pretty much is it. Just to review the bidding, there's a couple of additional citizen articles that were noticed for what, the 17th, is that right, Leslie?
Yeah.
Or the
So you've continued 8 articles over to Monday. Then there are 3 new articles for the 17th. And I think I didn't want to bog down during the Monomoy discussion, but I think at least one of those you'll want to carry over to the 17th, but we'll just see how it goes on Monday.
Okay, thank you. And thanks to you and Andrew, and I think Leslie, you were doing a lot of the legwork here. Particularly, thank you for your scrupulous attention and care and working with all the details. We really appreciate it. So anything else for the good and welfare? Our next standard meeting is Monday. It's a relatively short agenda, but we'll fill it out with the rest of these that we carried forward. And then we're saving, it's an afternoon meeting on the 17th, if you'll recall that, from 1 to 4. And then we'll have to go before the FinCom at some point once we get all our materials together. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
John seconds. Roll call, Nat,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Fritz,
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
All right, Judith. All right, yes. Good night, everybody, and be safe out there. Thank
Great.
you,
Thank you,
everybody.
Judith. Good night.
Thank you all.
Look at that, 7:35.
Pizza. I snuck and put the pizza in. You didn't know it.
I'm glad. Good work. Should be hot.